Well, welcome to a very special premiere where we're going to have a chance to get to know a very talented gentleman from out in the great state of Colorado. Dusty has just a wide array of creative masterpieces that he's done over the years. Everything from leather work to airbrushing to painting. I'm not even going to do it justice in trying to describe it to you, but he's been a follower and a fan of mine for some time. And through those contacts and helping him answer some questions about his sewing machines and that, I came to discover just about his incredible talent. And I said, I'd love to interview you and share your work, your process, your creativity with the world, and just have them really appreciate you and appreciate what it is that you do. So with that, I'm going to give Dusty a call out in Colorado, and we'll see if we can chat a little bit with him, get some insights. I would strongly encourage you to step out of the shadows and to be a part of that chat so that you can ask Dusty questions about his work, about his process, and all that kind of stuff, and just really get to know this gentleman better. And also, you can see on screen, this is his Facebook landing page. You've got a chance to also take a closer look at his incredible work by going to www.dustybustos.com. So you'll want to do that as well, okay? So let me see if I can get Dusty on the phone, and we will jump into this very, very fun interview. And I'll change my shot in just a few seconds once we connect, so. I think we're finally ringing here. Let me try this again. We're not connecting with Dusty for some reason. Hold on a second. There you are. Yeah, I just tried to call you a second ago and the phone just rang, but I think it was probably on my end, I'm guessing. But
yeah, it came through and it just said connecting video, but then it didn't connect.
Yeah, well, the beauty of technology. But
yeah.
Well, at any rate, let me first of all say I'm so glad that we were able to do this. I've gotten to know you a little bit through our contacts about some of the sewing machine questions you've had for research and that, but we don't know a lot about each other at this point. So I'm kind of excited for you to share, with the audience and for them to get to know you better, for them to gain a deeper appreciation for the work that you do as well and how you do it. Your process, I think, the little bit that I know is incredibly unique. It's cutting edge. It's a passion point of yours, obviously. I had recently read one of your Facebook posts where I think you made a great point. And that is that oftentimes when you're an artist and you've got certain gifts or skills, people don't recognize your skills. They don't recognize your work. They look at, okay, who did you do it for? Is it at the Smithsonian? Is it at this place? Was it displayed here, presented there? And they totally miss the point of the artist and, that gift and skill that they have. So I really want to invite you to talk a little bit about that as well, and just what drives you, what gets you motivated, what inspires you, that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
first
that
of
was
all,
an edgy post.
what's that again?
That was an edgy post.
Yeah, well, it was a little bit, but I think your point was made. Your point was made. So let me do this. I've already shown them your landing page on Facebook. I pointed out your website as well. Now help me out. Your last name, is it? Pronounce your last name for me so I get it right.
Bustos.
Bustos. That's exactly how I was going to say it, but I didn't want to mess it up. So let me do this. I'm going to move the camera over by the computer. I'm going to move the tripod over there as well. So y'all that are watching this right now are going to get jostled around a little bit. But I want to be close enough so we can hear Dusty, but also we can kind of jump back and forth to the pictures that he shared with me as well. But if I hold on to the camera, he's going to be bouncing and dancing all over the place, and that's going to get irritating to all of you real quick. So.
Well, it depends on the type of dancing.
I love it. You know what? You just inspired me to ring the bell. I wasn't going to ring the bell, but I am now. So. So the bell doesn't signify the beginning of a class, other than the class is going to be in Colorado today. And I'm going to invite Dusty really to lead a lot of this. I'm going to obviously share certain things and talk about certain things, but this is really about Dusty and his work. And I think I'll shut that light off above you too. We'll get less of a glare on there maybe. Yeah, that's a lot better. But why don't we rewind a little bit and talk a little bit about how did you find me? How does that tie into part of the work that you do involving sewing machines and that sort of thing, if you don't mind?
Yeah, that's actually kind of a cool story. I have, and I'll give I won't break the long story short rule, but I'll still fill in the details as good as possible. I got a buddy that I had done some custom work for, and we just became friends through me doing some jobs for him. And his son is an actual race crew member in some kind of Formula One racing or something like that. And he sent me a note the other night because I had posted that I had brought home this old FOF 545 H4 machine. And since I geek out on sewing machines, I was like, oh yeah, I got this cool machine. And he asked a question about where do you source parts, and he had a 332 FOF, which I was like, I believe that's a home machine, and my resource typically is only industrials. So I went looking just to kind of help answer his question, because I know that German machines are very specific about parts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I just started Googling around to see about that particular model of machine, and I just kind of wanted to see one working, so I looked at videos, and one of your videos just seemed to pop up. And you were so enthusiastic. It was the video where you had the old Singer with the blown out balance wheel on it,
Okay, yeah.
You switched over to the FOF and you were doing test stitches on it through some veg tan leather.
Okay.
So I said, well, if I wrote back to him, I said, well, I found this gentleman here and he seems to be really hip to, this sort of thing. He probably has the parts you need or can get them. And so that's kind of how I ran, because you were enthusiastic by the way the machine sews. I was like, he gets just as excited as I do. I need to talk to him.
Well, you know what? They're kind of like something just popped up on the screen. Sorry about that. They're kind of like power tools. I mean, really. I mean, you sit down to if you're a craftsman and you sit down to certain power tools, or even hand tools for that matter, they can just get you totally stoked up. And when I sit down to a machine, it's different every single time, depending on the, like I always say, when a machine leaves the factory, it's no longer equal. So when you sit down to a machine, when I get a machine into the workshop, I unbox it, I start to sit down, I start to do my process on it. You never know what you're going to find. It's like a box of chocolates, like from Forrest Gump almost. You never know what you're going to discover. Is that motor going to be at 40%? Is it going to be at 60%? Is it going to be at maybe it's going to be in real great shape? But it's always it's kind of an adventure. It's kind of an adventure in discovering where things are at, and then focusing down, kind of like I can only imagine when you start on one of your projects with your process, you're seeing the process as it is, but you're looking also ahead to where it's going to be, and you have that ability to visualize those steps and where you need to take it to, and when you and we're going to look at a lot of the pictures that you share because I think they're fabulous. But when you started doing this, talk a little bit about how did you get introduced into the creative space? How did you start it? What were you doing? You obviously didn't start as a master leather craftsman like you are now, and with all the other artistic talents you have. Where did it all start? Who inspired you, or how did you begin your process? And your
Well, that's a kind of an interesting story because I grew up. I struggled in school. I'm left-handed. I'm colorblind, and I'm dyslexic.
Oh wow, okay, yeah.
So school was nothing but a struggle for me. I got through it. I made it through. I graduated early. Actually, I just got it done because all I cared about was I just want to get this part of my life done so I can go do my thing. And from the beginning, it was kind of like my dad actually built a chopper in our living room.
I mean, like a helicopter, like chopper helicopter.
Chopper motorcycle.
Oh, okay. I'm you had me blown away totally. I'm visualizing like a helicopter in your front room or something. So a chopper.
I'm sure if he could have, he would have.
You're talking about the ones that had those real long forks, like we used to see them driving around on all the time.
Right. He was he went into the service and he came out to tail end of Vietnam and he had enough money left over to pay off some student loans and what have you. And he was going to buy a Harley Davidson, and his friend said, "Oh no, this was 1975.
Okay.
This Kawasaki 900 was the thing. If you had one of those, that was the thing. That was the big super bike of the day. So he decided to get one of those instead, and he wrecked it. So he rebuilt it on a chopper frame, and he did it in the living room of him and my mom's little tiny rental house.
Oh my gosh.
So that's kind of where I grew up, was in a house of, well, you need to build yourself a machine, do it wherever you can. I mean, I've gotten some of my best paint jobs in the bathtub.
That's awesome.
you know, so that's kind of where it started, and it evolved. So then he put a supercharger on this bike, and he used to put me on the back and ride into the drag strip, and I would be standing there holding his wallet, his keys, and his exhaust baffle while he's doing a burnout down the drag strip.
You're kidding. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, kind of my upbringing was a bit eclectic, we didn't do the soccer dad thing.
What an experience. That explains a lot about where you got your vision and inspiration then.
Yeah, so I kind of, as I grew up, I just, he didn't never pushed any of it on me. I just took on the interest on my own. And that led me to building my own bike in my parents' backyard when I was a teenager. And instead of at the end just having a bike, I was enamored with all of the artistic medium that went into one project. I mean, the mechanical side, plus the painting, plus the metal forming, plus the upholstering and what have you. It all was like, wow, this really kind of put me through the paces of creativity. So I actually also had a summer job as a 14-year-old at my uncle's auto body shop. And this homeless artist came rolling in and started painting on the cars, and he befriended me and started taking my drawing into painting, and he kind of got me going on that. So it was just kind of like a domino effect.
Yeah, all these people kind of stepping into your view and they gave you little drops of this, little drops of that, and it just led you down a certain path, it sounds like. And it's amazing that you looked at that motorcycle. You didn't, like a lot of people, they would look at that motorcycle and they would just look at it in its totality. You looked at that motorcycle and you broke it down in your mind in all the different medians and disciplines that it would require to make that a complete package. And that's what you do with a lot of your work now as well. I think from what you posted and from what you wrote in some of your quick little remarks on some of the pictures you shared.
Yeah, I fell in love with the creative process, and I was like, but I didn't want to be a bike shop. You know, I did that scene for quite a number of years just but I eventually, it was my other half. She pulled me aside a few years ago, and she said, I really think you need to do your own artwork because you're getting burned out doing the kind of the same old, you know, trendy designs over and over, and you're getting, I mean, like my tooling mallet, doing this for 14 hours a day, you know, things like that. So I agreed with her, and I went off and started doing kind of my own thing, and it's worked out so far. You know, you can't plan these sort of things; they just happen. You know.
And you like the path you're on. You seem to be having fun. You seem to be generating some great work. Talk a little bit more about. I mean, you don't just do leather work. I know that some of the pictures you shared were just, and I'm really excited to share it with everybody else. Some of the fantastic pictures you shared of some of the leather work that you've done, but you do a lot of other things. You do airbrushing. You do, I mean, just a variety of different artistic type disciplines. All self-taught, or did you have somebody kind of walk you through those processes to learn what to do?
I'm about 98% self-taught. I did have some. I always had a tendency to befriend people who were older than I was, and they were really experienced and really good at a certain craft. So I latched onto those people because, for example, there's a gentleman named Jack that works for Ralph's Industrial Power Sewing here in Denver, and he is a sewing machine encyclopedia. Like with industrial machines, I can call him up and say, "Hey Jack, this model, da da da," and he can just shoot numbers off the top of his head. He's one of these rare people that he's in his 70s now. Once he decides to check out, a lot of that information will go with him
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's not a lot of stuff you can just find by Googling,
sure.
right? So I value that sort of thing, and I always have. Another friend of mine who was a drag bike builder, you know, I latched onto him so I could learn how to build my bike properly. Or another friend that was the guy that was at the body shop, you know, he has a wealth of knowledge. So I just hung out with him because it was like I could learn something from this guy, and they saw that I really wanted to learn, and I'd run off and I would practice because I just had this thirst to, like, I gotta do this. I can't just stand back and appreciate it. I gotta do it, you know.
Yeah, hands
So
on.
yeah,
Totally hands on. Well, I mean, I think that's a real smart approach. I mean, that's like an apprenticeship approach. I mean, you're going to watch someone that has that mastery pick up different things, and then you adapt it to fit you. You plug your stuff into, the general form of what they've given you. That's kind of I don't know if you followed some of the things on my Facebook page about Heidi in Switzerland and the machine that I shipped to her, which is also a FOF as well. And she's going to be learning from a master cobbler in the Swiss Alps. They're going to be side by side with this guy, and watch him do it, and then try to replicate, and then get their own style to it. So I think that's a real smart approach. It's super smart.
yeah. Anytime you learn something, you pay tuition, right? So
Yeah.
I thought, well, these are people that I gel really well with. I've never done well with a lot of my peers. I only have a few friends that are my age. Pretty much, even my girlfriend is quite a bit older than I am because I've always been kind of an old soul.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's kind of funny though because she's Asian, so she's like really into the technology and she likes the new stuff, and all of my stuff is archaic, analog. Our household is a really funny mixture of the two.
Oh, that's interesting. So old and new, but you know what? What do they say? Opposites attract, right? So you,
Right? Yeah, we do. We get along so great, and we just come from total opposite ends.
that's fabulous. Let me do this. Now we're going to look at some of the pictures that you shared, and I just want you to share whatever you want to share about them. And what I'll
Okay.
do is to make it easiest, I'll just kind of I'll spin the camera around and kind of focus in on a picture, and then give me a second. I'll spin the camera back, and then just tell whatever you want to tell about that. You know, kind of, I'll probably make you dizzy a little bit. I'll be flipping you towards the screen, flipping you back, but that way you can really give your insights. Because again, I'm most interested in just understanding better, you know, your inspiration, your process, and all of that, and that's going to come from, you know, the images that you showed of just a few of your projects. Let me click on that. Oh, I love this one. Oh my gosh, I love this one. Let me spin you around and tell me if I've got the camera angled correctly, if you can see the image.
I got a slight glare, but the image is there.
How about like that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a dark screen with a casted shop light. That's a bit better. Slide over to your left just a taste. There you go. Slide down just a slight taste. There it is. Oh, you're up a little bit up. That's a leather carving I did. Yeah, right there's cool.
Okay. So
Yeah, that's a leather carving.
I'm gonna spin it around, and eventually we'll get the position of the camera just spot on. But let me let me first of all show the folks what I just showed you, because I was still zeroed in on the other part of the screen, and I can see which light is kind of bugging us. Let me shut that one off too. That'll probably help. So this is the image that I just showed Dusty, and just give you folks a chance to kind of focus in on it for a second, and I'll kind of come out on this shot a little bit. Maybe I can show the image, and no, it's going to be too far out. I'll focus in on just on Dusty, and then he can talk a little bit about that leather work. So tell us about that.
Focusing in on you.
Yeah, I can see you fine now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get a little bit of a freeze effect sometimes, where it was kind of funny as you just leaned in real quick into the camera, all of a sudden your face kind of froze there, and it was like, ah! Exactly. So tell us about this owl. Tell us about this project that you did.
I had a really nice lady who ordered up a leather piece from me. It's been a while back now. I think it's, I don't know, a year or two ago, but she was nice enough to say, "Can you just do something cool a cool nature piece?" And I said, "You know, I've been kind of itching to do an owl lately." And she goes, "Yeah, do me an owl." I said, "Cool." So I was all about it. So I literally just sat down and drew out an owl and carved it into the leather. And I had been speaking. I stepped out of the Western techniques a little bit over the last 5 or 6 years, and I started speaking with people in other cultures and other countries about their approach to leather carving, and it was really neat because it like opened up. It was getting a bit mundane for me just to do the standard carve and bevel. I wanted to do some new techniques and use some new tools, so I made friends in other countries through social media and what have you.
Sure.
And I was like, I got to put these new tools to work and get some new effects. So I did, and I got that owl. And but basically, that was just a really good, straightforward, fun executed project that she's still using it. It's actually a heat shield for an Indian motorcycle that I did.
Seriously.
I'm not in that business anymore, but that was one of the really good ones.
So that was actually part of one of the motorcycle designs that you were involved with then.
Yeah, which I thought was really neat because it wasn't your typical, cliche biker artwork. It was something like nature-esque and kind of like, how can I just render this off the top of my head and make it look right?
Well, and I mean, it looks, the owl looks strong, but it's also got a softer side, like you said, that you wouldn't expect to see in part of that biker culture. I mean, it's a wonderful contrast.
Yeah, I thought so. I appreciated doing that for her because it was just so, I mean, truly unique among that group of types of artwork. Nothing wrong with that type of artwork. It's just I did it for so long for so many people, and there's so many leather shops doing it that I'm like, I would more gladly take those customers, and those guys could use work too. So go ahead and have it, let them have at it. And in those rare occasions when I'm like, yeah, I like that project, I'll do that one, because I've never been money motivated in any of my projects.
Sure, sure. Now, which machine? I'm looking at the you kind of edged it off along the bottom, and then you can see the border going up to the right side with some real nice stitching. Which of your machines did you use to do that stitching?
That one I wanted to use a heavy thread. I believe I used a 346 thread, so I used my big King Max GA 441 saddle machine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the one that you're using size 28 or 30 size needles in it, right?
Yeah, that I had messaged you about it. I did find some 28s at Ralph's, but the 30s they said they couldn't get, so I'm still going to hook up with the thread exchange to if I need to go a step bigger, I can.
Yeah, yeah. They've got a huge array. Not only the needles, but they've got all kinds of threads. I've turned a lot of people onto their Kevlar thread. I've got some people that do some extreme sports and they do mountain climbing. There's a guy that's a former Marine over in Minnesota, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm using the cotton stuff, but it tends to degrade." And I said, "Well, check out some of their Kevlar stuff." Another guy was a firefighter, and they've got some great fire retardant type thread there as well. That it's just amazing, amazing the technology. Whoops, sorry about that.
That was a cool sound.
Yeah, people always freak out when I usually remember to shut the air compressor off, but if I don't, it'll cycle down and get down to a PSI where it's like, okay, we need to come on now, and then all of a sudden, blah. So,
I gotta shut mine off. Let me shut mine off.
sure.
That was a good point you made because I have a big upright in the corner, and every once in a while does the same thing. And do you ever notice, even if you've been working next to an air compressor for 30 years, every time it goes, blah, 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 you go, ah!
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not ashamed to say. I'm sitting there, and especially if I'm focusing on something that's real intense. If I'm trying to do some rewrap on a motor or something like that, and then all of a sudden that thing goes off. Oh yeah, it's like a shock wave. It's like a shock wave because you're so intense on something, and all your faculties and all your focus is on that one thing. Then all of a sudden it just breaks your concentration. Yeah. So, at any rate,
For years I've worked either with airbrushing or with whatever, and I have air compressors in almost every room of my workshop. I have two different workspaces here that I use.
oh neat.
Every time,
I said that's super cool.
yeah. So every time it kicks on, I'll be painting something. you know? That'll teach you how to scribble skin texture on a portrait real quick.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Talk about texturing, huh? Talk about texturing.
I love texture and actually in my leather and in my paintwork, since I'm colorblind in the portraits and stuff I do, I only use 2 to 3 paints maximum usually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I build everything up in they call it chiaroscuro lighting or tenebrism, which was applied also by like Caravaggio, Leonardo's smoke. Leonardo da Vinci was a lot like me. He was colorblind and dyslexic and all that. So he developed Leonardo's smoke by building up different values and depths because he didn't know how to tint in colors. And when I discovered that, I was on my way because I used to try to paint in tints like other people, and my work always looked really muddy, and I couldn't figure out why. And finally I just said, well, it never looks muddy when I do it in a pencil because it's just different darknesses of the same thing, so why don't I apply that to my paint and not worry about overcoloring everything?
Well, that's a great idea. And that, I mean, that really, that got you on a track where it wasn't holding you back anymore. You just adapted to it, and now you're able to create the masterpieces that you sent me pictures of.
Yeah, and it allowed me to develop my own unique look in my work, because you'll see a lot of my stuff has just a lot of sepia and black and white, you know.
Sure.
Some of the work that is actually colored, it looks more colored than it actually is. It's actually each colored section is just different intensities of the same color. So that worked out. And for years I struggled. I was like, why does my work look muddy? It starts out good and then it turns bad. And it's nice because anybody could use that technique. It's just I'm kind of locked into using it because of my color blindness. If I tried to tint things the way Vermeer did, oh, it would look like really, it would just be very blotchy.
Now, when you're talking about the intensity, is that by adding? Because I am not an artist like you. That's by the number of layers that you're putting on top of it with the same color to give it more emphasis.
Right, you can do start out at a lighter percent and then just keep adding more pigment. And then if you need to go past 100%, you can put a drop of something else in that same color and just keep shading, shading, shading until you get to your darkest of darks.
It's amazing. Let me click past this owl and let me see what the next one is. And because I don't want to miss any of these pictures that you sent. Let me just see if I can get it right here. Okay, this next one is, it looks almost like, to me, it's a little baby. Let me spin it around.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I can't see, so just tell me up, down, left, right.
Just a little bit down and left, just a tiny bit. Just a little bit left, tiny, tiny bit. Maybe just a little more left. Yeah, we're catching the overall. You can probably go up just right there. That's cool. Kind of get the overall.
Is that better when I shut this light off for you, Dusty, or better with it on?
Yeah, you can see it pretty good with the light off. It's not. It doesn't show the reflection in the screen, so you could see the screen much better.
Okay, I'll leave the light off then. So you can see the little baby. Talk about the materials you're using, the process, and kind of what your inspiration was for this one.
Slide over to your. Oh, you're coming back. Okay.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Here, tell me which way to go.
To your left, just a little bit.
Okay.
And that looks pretty close right there. You can kind of see the overall. Yeah. No, that was just a random piece of leather that was laying in the corner, and I was sending some stuff to one of the galleries, and they were like, send us some stuff, you know. I said, all right, and they were like, whatever you want, you know. So I thought, I've never actually tried to make a picture of an infant of any kind, and so I just did. I just took a piece of like 6-ounce veg tan and just started drawing and carving. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting if it had like, you know, a leaf for a little baby cap and laying on a leaf. And then that was actually introduction to my wall deco leather art. I kind of got to where I like making things that can be usable in leather, but it's also fun to just make artwork in leather because, like, one of the reasons I got out of making heat shields for motorcycles is because leather's worst enemy is the heat.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and while I did line my shields with a really heat-resistant liner, they still just took a beating, and it was like all this nice carving and detail work, and ethically, people were paying me really good money for that stuff, and I felt like I didn't want to have them pay for this high-end piece of work that they were literally just going to burn by using it.
Yeah, just and this is, I mean, motorcycles, what is it, like 1400 degrees, so it would break it down very, very quickly after you did all that creative work on it.
Yeah, I mean, they've held up pretty well. I've got gotten some people that have written back saying that it's still held up well, but it's still, you can see the wear on it, even just from the sun beating on it, just destroys it, you know. And it's funny because I get a lot of people that write into me and say, man, I want to see your bike. I'm like, why? And they're like, I'll bet it has all kinds of cool paint and leather. I was like, no, my bike's very clean and standard. I like clean, simple machines, you know. But yeah, this baby picture was something that was like, oh, somebody could buy this and just appreciate it for the artistic aspect, and they're not going to put it under heavy abuse. But when I do make a piece that's made to be usable, I really want it to like last a long time, like heavy duty. I like having that fine art. I like crossing up the two intersecting things. So my industrial.
I'm sorry, you kind of froze there for a second as you were talking. You
Yeah,
you said something about industrial, and then you kind of cut out.
yeah. My basic is intersecting. Oh, do we have a freeze?
You're actually moving again now, so
There we go.
yeah.
Yeah. So my main theme when I intersect two things, it's luxury intersects with industrial.
Explain that a little bit more.
So luxury items are typically very fine, which I do like a fine made item. But I tell people all the time, you know what? You're too broke to buy cheap stuff. Meaning you don't want to buy it 20 times throughout your life. Just buy it once.
Sure.
If you buy it again, it's because you want it, not because you need it. Right? So what I do is I put heavy duty. It can be fine art or finely made, but I always go for the most heavy duty possible for because for me there's one golden rule in my workshop: form follows function.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, looks follows. I mean, if it's built right, it looks right.
Quality, engineering.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. Longevity.
absolutely. And I worked in the welding industry for about 7 years, and I got to be a pretty good metal engineer, you know, and that I applied that into my building of things that people are going to use, and it's like, and my dad used to say, man, ever since you were a kid, you would use something, you just wear it out. You wouldn't abuse it, you wouldn't break it, but you'd use it so much, you just wear it out. So now, as an adult with a workshop, like everything I own is like industrial, because if I buy some kind of chintzy made thing, I literally just wipe it out. So like everything I have is heavy duty.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean it makes sense, and that was the mindset back then in the vintage time, in that era. They built it with a sense of craftsmanship. They built it with the idea that they wanted someone to buy it. You know, that was it, one time in a lifetime. There wasn't any of that planned obsolescence where they were building it and engineering it like they do now to fail. They were building it to, we want somebody. We are planning for somebody to have to buy this at least one or two more times in their lifetime, because we're going to build it to last a certain amount of time, and then they're going to have to replace it. So I mean, we've gotten so far off track from that with the way things are engineered and manufactured now.
Yeah, I believe that as a person that makes things for people, your ultimate goal has to be, first and foremost, I want this person to have a good quality thing. I don't want to make a sale. I want to make the person happy that owns the thing. I want it to be something that they can hand down to their grandkids. You know, because planned obsolescence to me is counterproductive, because I found through experience that when you make something really well made for somebody, they'll come back and buy more just because they like what you do. You don't need to make it wear out to sell another one. Make it really good and you'll sell another one.
Or they refer other people that have seen your work, and that other person that shares that same interest and like and desire wants to get that same level because they've experienced the substandard of what the products look like these days, and that's true. I mean, that's so true in the vintage sewing machine space. People will contact me all the time and say, I've gone through 3 machines. You know, I've gone to a big retailer, a big box store, and I bought one machine that lasted me 6 months. Then I got another one that lasted me 8 months, but it's always that cycle going back and back and back and back where they never feel like they've, it's just a constant disappointment. It's a constant disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, you know that old 3115 you looked up for me the other day, and you told me it was made in 1918?
Yeah, yeah.
That is actually my go-to machine that I use almost daily.
Nice, nice.
For my, I just need some general drop foot action to sew up general all the way up to like middleweight leather and denims or whatever general sewing I need to do.
Sure.
And that old girl, it never skips a stitch. I think it runs smooth and happy. I've sewn and sewn and sewn on it, and it's like I would never replace it because it's just such a good old machine, and it sews beautifully for me.
I love that walking foot you have on it too. That walking foot.
The walking foot. I think the video I sent you of the walking foot was a side view of the FOF that I had just gotten.
Oh, was it? Okay, okay. I thought that was your 3115. So.
Yeah, the 3115 has right now just a drop. It's a flat rollers type foot.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
And I actually just bought a free motion embroidery foot for it so I can start embroidering around on stuff.
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so test out a new medium because my curiosity makes me do it.
Well, and you've got the ability and the vision to do it. There's other folks that can go for the free motion quilting and they can't get the flow, they can't get the rhythm down for that. Now, with that 3115, are you driving a servo motor on it, or what do you have powering it?
Yeah, it actually, when I got it, there was an old Singer cork-driven clutch motor, and the cork was all dried out, and it had the small hand wheel, so when you'd hit it, it was just like, zing, like it just was so quick, and I was like, well, I don't do production work, so I put a King Max servo motor, and I put an aluminum gear reduction pulley under it.
Oh, nice, nice. So you have that control factor, and that's the problem with some of those servo-driven motors. Unless you adjust pulley style or something like that, you just got that burst. And unless you're doing a straight row, like you said, production or something like that, where you don't have to do any maneuvering, you don't have to adjust direction or anything. I mean, they're just so hard to control sometimes.
A lot of inlay work with it.
Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, you're back again. Our video kind of cuts in and out a little bit, but
okay.
But yeah, 3115
when
is
it pauses, I pause. I go, wait.
But the 3115 is a great. It's a great machine, and I actually restored one. It's been many, many, many years ago that I restored one. But this guy, he was looking for more straight production type seam sewing in that. He was going to be doing basically airplane seats for, he had a small fleet of planes and he was going to redo all the seats, and a lot of it was straight row stitching. You had to do some curves, but you could do it needle down, and it wasn't a big deal to make some of those turns that he had to. But I warned him before he sat down to it. I said, just, put your seatbelt on, get ready for, because I think that one had a 7 or 8 amp motor on it, and obviously they make them bigger, but that thing, oh my gosh, you would sit down to that and you feel your hair blowing back like a Boz stereo commercial or something like that. They're just amazing.
Yeah, that people ask me all the time, so isn't it hard to get parts for that old machine? I said, no, it's extremely easy because according to the industrial sewing place, they said they still make that machine.
Okay, cool. Where are they making them? Over in Japan now, or where are they producing them?
I think they're made by King Max.
Okay.
I'd have to double check on that, but he says he has a fleet of new ones in there that he's getting ready to set up.
I did not know that. Very interesting.
Yeah. And when I walked in there and I asked Joe, he's Ralph Badeo's son, Ralph's Power Sewing, he said, oh yeah, I could get you every single part for that machine new because they never stopped making it.
That is so cool. I'm trying to think. We were talking about Class 15 machines the other day, and one of them was produced well into the 1980s, and I thought that that was impressive. But it sounds like these they've got such a winning model that I mean, why phase it out? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, people complain about models not getting changed. Well, they didn't update, they didn't change it. I said, well, they didn't change the alphabet either, Pinwheel, because it works. I mean, it's like, why would you change something that works?
Let me go to the next image,
Sure.
and I will do my best to get it lined up. I know it's a little bit of a hit and miss. Let's see if I can do a better job this time of. And I've got to look and see where my. Okay, there we go.
Oh yeah, Freddie Roach.
Talk about this image, Dusty. Tell us about this one. What's going on? You guys are going to fist bump, and what's the setting? Where were you at? What were the circumstances? All that kind of stuff. And I'll spin the camera back around so they can see you and hear you talking.
You know who that gentleman is?
No, tell me who that is.
That's Freddie Roach. That is Manny Pacquiao's boxing trainer.
Okay.
He opened a gym in Los Angeles called Wild Card Boxing, and the gym was actually Mickey Rourke actually moved him, I think, from Vegas to LA years ago, and helped him open this gym. And now he's like the modern day Angelo Dundee. Like all the big boxers go to him. And last year I did a painting of him, a portrait for his gym. So Dawn and I went down there to deliver it to him, and he was really a genuine cool guy. He was one of these people that when you walk into a boxing gym, there's all this testosterone and all this macho thing going on, but when he walks into the room, all of a sudden the room felt very cool. Like everything was just okay. He had that kind of energy about him.
He brought a calm in all the chaos then.
Right, and he suffers from Parkinson's disease, but he's actually maintained it really well by, he said, just stay active, don't sit around and feel sorry for yourself, keep moving. And his doctors were really amazed at him at how he has kept his health just going strong by just being positive and moving forward. And I really liked Freddie Roach. He's like one of the most genuine people I met. He spent like a couple hours just chatting with us and telling us about how when I did the painting, he says, the only thing I ever learned how to draw was trees because his dad and him were in some sort of tree business.
Sure, arborist or something, yeah.
Yeah, so it was neat because he had a lot of different subjects to talk about outside of just the gym, you know?
Yeah.
But you could go into his gym and stand there and watch celebrities walk in and out all day to train because that's like the most popular gym in Los Angeles.
Okay, so that is Southern California then. You travel to drop off his the work that you did. What was it? What was the medium? Was it oil? Was it what was? How did you create the picture of him?
That was a piece of really nice canvas I had laying there, and I left it free to frame it. And I used acrylics and I used inks on that. So it was a little bit of hand brush paint, a little bit of airbrush here and there. I don't use the airbrush as much as I used to, but I kind of gone back to using it more and less. Basically, the airbrush, it's got like this weird taboo around it that it's connected to like auto body shops and festivals, right?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of my goals, vinyl wrap, just
I've got you frozen again. Sorry about that.
freeze frame. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But so one of my goals with the airbrush is to kind of show people like, well, it is a fine. I mean, I've had some fine artists come to my studio that were really excellent oil painters, brush painters, and what have you. And they would say, hey, would you walk me through this airbrush because I bought it and I want to try it out? And I said, yeah, bring it over. I'll walk you through some techniques. And these were some fantastic artists, but they made a complete instant mess out of the canvas with an airbrush because it's just a different animal, you know.
Is it a matter? And again, I'm not an artist. Is it a matter of I know you can adjust the airbrushes. What was it? Too much saturation, or what was the issue, or just the way it applies the paint?
Yeah, it's kind of all of the above because the way it lets it out and you're spraying, if you're not used to the touch of it, you'll make a runny mess like that, you know. So to sit there, when I paint with an airbrush, I literally just sit there and float it and scribble freehand until an image starts to show up. There's, to go into all the technicals of it is like a whole nother video, but in a lot of the old techniques were to learn how to do lettering with them and outlining and coloring like they would do on T-shirts, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually never had that formal training. I did do T-shirts for a while when I was just trying to get by. I'd go to festivals and paint pictures on shirts and sell them, and it got me through some tight times. But I actually never had the formal airbrush training.
Well, that's 98% of who you are, though. I mean, like you said, you're 98% self-taught, and apart from some of the people that you brought into your life, you lined up with, and you kind of picked up some of the things from them. I mean, a lot of these things you just kind of figure out. I mean, that's the way it is about a lot of things. I mean, when I started working on machines 20 plus years ago, I had done work on cars with my dad out in the garage when I was a boy, and didn't done the basic stuff, adjust carburetors when they actually had carburetors and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, you start to figure out the basic mechanics of certain things, or the basic principles of certain things, or the techniques or whatever, and you punch them into other areas, other platforms, and you make it work. So I mean,
Right.
it's impressive when you can do that, because there are nuances to any of those techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, I love mechanical stuff. That's why I love sewing machines. It's one of the few things left that's still purely mechanical.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, before we go to the next picture, you talked about your 3115, you talked about the FOF that you have. How many machines you've got go-to machines, but how many machines do you have in your collection right now, approximately?
Oh, total, I have two 3115s, two Singer 111s, one FOF, a Tippmann Boss, and three 78-1s, and that Class 9. So I got 10 sewing machines.
That's a good start, but you got to catch up, my friend. I've got like over 200. I think I told you.
Oh, I have a ways to go.
You'll get your third workshop and then start filling up shelves or something. Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
like they kind of floated. I actually, and I don't like to send you too many messages while I know you're working, but when I get like the old 78-1s I have,
Sure.
um, I don't know what year those are either, and I know they're probably close to 100 years old. And at some point, when I get them out I've actually sewn on them and used them. I pulled them out of the table so I could rebuild them because they're getting old and sloppy, and they're starting to skip stitches no matter how good I set the timing.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's going to be time to make a project out of those because I know the basic info about machines enough to know how to, I've rebuilt them, I've,
Cool.
it's like I like looking at the mechanisms and letting common sense say, oh, this drives this is in relation to this. And I find that as like a therapeutic hobby, but I'm not super educated about all the models and da-da-da-da. So I use them more than I work on them. But when I do work on them, I find myself just like, turning on some old blues music, pouring coffee, and just sitting there in the workshop just
Tinker
getting these
away.
old. Yeah, and I'm a nitpick. I get every little function because I've seen so many upholstery guys. They get their machine just close and they just run it, and I'm like, no, no, no. Make sure the knee bump on it is just right. Make sure the lift is the right. Make sure that you roll out your stitch space, oil it. Make sure that it's moving nice and smooth. Gear it so it's not too fast or too slow, and all these things. I just find general pleasure in that.
Well, that's the process of perfection, and that describes, from the pieces you shared, the pics of that. That's your process in everything you do. Do it like my dad used to say, and I'm guessing your dad would have said something similar. Do it right or go home. Do it right or don't do it
Yeah.
at all. So I think that that's once you adopt that principle of doing things right, it generally plugs into every part of your life. So I mean, what?
Yeah, as my dad told me years ago, he said, it's your thumbprint going on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a real good point.
Yeah.
And that's when people cared. That's when people they recognized that their name was attached to that and that it mattered. So now it's a mass process. It's anonymous, and even when you go to the underwear, you can't really tell if that inspector that checked your underwear is real or not. So, but well, let me go to the next. Let me go to the next picture, and tell me about that one. Let's see here. Oh, I think this is the actual piece that you did for that gentleman out in LA. How's that angle?
We got a little freeze. There we go. Yeah, that's the painting. Yeah, I did of him.
Incredible. Talk. You shared a little bit about the process that you used to generating this combination of paints and pencil and that, but what did you use him? I'm gonna kind of spin the camera back around because you probably know this picture by heart. But when it comes to creating something like this, what did you use as your model? What was your model to create the painting by?
Actually, that particular one, um, one of his, I think one of his friends that he trains or something on Instagram or something had shared that photo, and I just saw it, and we were talking about how I use the techniques I use for color blindness, and one thing that I really heavily rely on is contrast, and that particular photo had a lot of contrast and not a lot of color in it, so I just was compelled to paint it.
Sure. And you've got a combination of browns, blacks, trying to see what some of the other shading in it is that kind of brings all the form together. But the detailing, even on his hair, I think is just phenomenal. I mean, I can't imagine, and again, I'm not an artist, so I can't even imagine the scope of brushes that you have to use and in order to execute that level of detail. I mean, there's a lot of detail in that picture as you look at it. There's a lot of detail.
Yeah, and that's kind of back when I was, yeah, I was doing the more realism stuff. I actually didn't get a chance to. I wanted to send you some you've probably seen it, some of my newer, more surrealistic stuff. That's kind of the road I've gone down lately because I did for a long time the really realistic portrait type thing. And then I noticed that a lot of people are getting more and more realistic with their work, and it's great. It's the hardest one to do on a technical level. But then I loosened up and said, let's do some imaginary stuff. It doesn't have to be technically perfect, but let's do something that you can step into. And like, in my opinion, a realistic paintwork is illustration, which is great. An illustration should jump off the canvas at you. It should look real, and it should be instantly. It's a quick impact. But artwork would be something more like a skewed. Maybe it's technically sound. Maybe it's really good, really well done. But it should strike the imagination, and instead of jumping off the canvas, it should pull you into the canvas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I started doing these. If you look through my stuff through my Facebook, you probably see like a painting I did a while back with like a twirly hat head coming out of the sand with like ballerina silhouettes dancing on giant ladybugs and things like that.
Talking almost, yeah, almost like Alice in Wonderland stuff or something like that,
Oh
where
yeah,
there's no boundaries, there's no parameters. You have to do X, Y, and Z. You can go from X to Z or Z to A. It doesn't matter as long as you create something that is unique and different.
If it's fun to look at. So realism, it does display technical ability, but it's very quick. People look at it real quick and they go, wow, and then they have a tendency to let go of it quick. But the stuff that is more surreal or more imaginative, even if it's not as technically advanced, sometimes it can be if you want it to be, but even if it's not, people have to, they always come back. It hits the reticular activating system. They walk away from it and then it resurfaces in their mind and they go, I gotta go back and look at that again. And then they just keep re-experiencing it. Oh, so it's more of a long, intimate process of molding with the work. And I've been enjoying that a lot lately because my mind just goes there. There's one painting, I'll have to send you a picture of it. It's like the corner of my work table. It's like my paranoia kicked in one night, and I was sitting here thinking, and I was staring at the corner of my workbench, and I saw from leather dye stains and stuff, I started seeing faces in the 2x4, and I started seeing the things sitting there. So I just drew it, what I saw, and then I turned it into a painting.
Oh,
And
neat.
I was out here in the workshop cooking eggs on the workshop. So I eggs,
That's awesome.
you know, and everybody loves that painting, you know, because it's just really fun to step into.
Well, and every time you step into it, there's a different adventure. You see it differently. It's
Right.
from a different angle, and that's where visiting a museum, someone will say, "Oh, I've been to that museum," but when you walk through it the second time, if you take time to do that, you're going to see all those pieces in a different way if they've got that dynamic in them. So I think, yeah, it's the beauty of the mind too, and being able to interpret them differently every time. Also, it's the artist's intent, but it's also the interpretation of the viewer, which makes it so super cool. But I love this picture. I love this picture that you did of him. And again, I'm not a boxing.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say I'm not a boxing enthusiast, so I don't know a lot about boxing. But the whole vibe you gave of him stepping into that space, testosterone filled, it's dynamic, it's aggressive, and he brought a placidness to it. He brought a softness to it, just because of his nature. So I think that's a character quality that you don't find that everywhere. I can understand why you resonated with him and why you connected at such a high level. That's super cool.
yeah, he's just a super relaxed guy with a super genuine smile, and you just feel good when you're around him. So
Yeah.
I was so happy to do that painting for him. And when we go back to LA with this, you know,
Yeah, you froze temporarily. You're still frozen. There, you're unfrozen.
okay. I was just saying when we cruise back through LA, I'm going to go back and visit him again because I just really like the guy. He's just really a genuine human.
How did this is kind of like a spinning way back, but how did you guys connect? How did you meet him, or how did he meet you? What was the situation? Nope, you froze again.
Five-time world kickboxing champion, and she's a, oh,
There you are. There you are.
are we,
You're back.
yeah, my friend Kathy Long, she was a five-time world kickboxing champion back in the 90s.
Okay. Okay.
Cat, she's just a wonderful human. She spoke so highly of Freddie that I did a painting for him.
Nice. Nice. I don't know if it's
You
my.
know,
I don't know if it's on my end or your end, but yeah, we're getting a lot. The freezing is increasing, so we're going to have to. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It could be my connection. It could be your connection. But let me click.
I could look here. Whoops.
Let me click on. That's
Let me
okay.
see what my Wi-Fi looks pretty full.
Okay. It could
I
be.
can switch up to.
Oh, you're good. You're good. It could be on my end. It could be on my end. Let me spin you around to the next picture. Tell me about this one. And I love your smile on this one, by the way. Your smile is awesome. Tell me which way to move it.
Up just a little. There we go. Me and Marilyn.
tell me more about this picture. Where are you? And more about the circumstances and the person and everything. I'll spin it back around.
Yeah, so that's Marilyn Manson. And he, Marilyn Manson, I don't listen to his music because it's a little too modern, aggressive for me. I listen to big band music, really.
Awesome.
You know, but I built a wallet for him, and in some of the pictures right there, you'll see the wallet that I made for him. And we were actually in Denver here at the time. He came through, and kind of one of those things where all of these, what's weird about all of these projects is it kind of like came through the grapevine, like, oh, I think so-and-so wants your blah-blah-blah. And I was like, no, sir. You know, I just didn't pay much mind to it. And, but then Dawn, my other half, she's like, no, make it because we'll go deliver it to, and sure enough, they were like, oh, yeah, you know. So the wallet that I made is a recreation of a Hans Bellmer. He was a German artist back in the day, in the 30s.
Okay.
He did a piece out of plaster called La Poupée, the doll. And it was a plaster doll, and it was, I do like to play on the side of the kind of the dark work that it's a little dark. Sometimes I just like to play there because, well, technically because I get the shadows I like to play with, and also because the little bit of taboo stuff shows balance in society. I like the pretty stuff too. But sometimes you just got to do that dark, daunting, you know, artwork. And when I did that piece, I was like, this has got to go to Marilyn. It's got to go to him. And sure enough, he was like, yeah, I've seen your work. I saw what you did for Johnny. And this is perfect because I love Hans Bellmer and I don't have a wallet. So I'm glad you actually followed through on this.
Well, and
So
Dawn is the one that
nice guy.
Dawn is the one that kind of Dawn is your lady friend. She's the one that kind of nudged you that direction a little bit too.
In all of them, or actually, what got me into doing work in Hollywood was my complaining.
I love it. She's like, just shut up and do the work, right?
I said, I'm so tired of doing the same old cliche stuff. She goes, this person wrote in and they said that so-and-so saw your work and they really want to see it or have it or something. I said, and I didn't pay. She goes, listen, just do it.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you got to lose? I said, well, nothing really. She goes, just do it. Let's see where it goes. And sure enough, it materialized and it came through and they were happy with what I did for them. So that's kind of how that came to be. It was really just I don't know, it just happened. It wasn't like a big deal, really. At the end of the day, looking back, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's just one of those things that, like, everything happens as it should.
Yeah. And that little, sometimes we just need that little nudge. Sometimes our rudder on the boat is pointing one way and somebody kind of blows wind into the sail or whatever it is, and all of a sudden we change course just a couple degrees. But it takes us down that path that opens up an opportunity like this. That, I mean, I can just see on your face, it was like, yeah, that Dawn is pretty smart. I'm glad she kind of said, what's the worst thing that can happen? Just do it. So, yeah, it's amazing.
Dawn has more amazing in her little fingernail than I'll ever possess.
What a compliment. What a compliment.
She's a wonderful human, and so I just kind of listened because she's done well in her life, and I realized, like, well, she didn't do it by making bad decisions, so I save a lot of time by just assuming she's right.
You know, I was talking about the insight that women have inherently. Just added Olga from France, like I said, as a moderator, and I talked about my strategic intent of wanting to have a balance on the team for the Facebook page, 3 guys, 3 gals, and I talked about women being able to look at a situation or whatever, and they can bounce from one sphere of their brain back and forth very rapidly. Us guys are kind of stuck. Us guys are kind of stuck in the left brain just because of the way that we process things, and women can bilaterally bounce left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And while we're looking at a problem, we're saying, okay, I'm going to analyze this in order A, B, C, D, E. Dawn and others can go from A to E and say, ladies can go from A to E and can find the solution sometimes and see the big picture quicker than we can sometimes. So it really is it's a self-reliance. It's a self-reliance.
Yeah, and I can appreciate raised by women. My dad is this kind of quiet guy. He's not your machismo type of guy. He's that quiet, shy type. He's very good mechanically. He's a very smart guy, but he's just the quiet, reserved type. And I was raised like when we were growing up at family reunions, all the uncles and boy cousins were all in there elbowing each other and doing the male thing, and I was kind of that shy kid that was in the kitchen with all the women while they were cooking.
That sounds real familiar. I was the same when my mom would go with the neighbor next door. I had a choice. I could either hang out with the guys in the garage when they were back from deer hunting, or I could go next door and sit with my mom and Millie and sip coffee and listen to them talk. I went next door pretty much 99% of the time. So, yeah, it's just it feels like a better fit. It just feels natural.
Yeah, not that I don't like doing the guy thing, and I ride motorcycles and I have tools and I like all that, but what I don't like is when it's an ego flare trip, you know?
Sure.
So, like, my guy friends that I have are pretty, like you say, like, they're more double-minded in that they can play on the emotional side, they can play on the technical side, we could talk about anything and it's all cool, you know?
Sure.
And, yeah, I just, there's only a few times when you have to, kind of suppress your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man it up a little bit. Man it up.
Yeah. Suppress your feelings. Pretend like you got some answers. Do some man stuff. It's valuable and I like it, but it's not always necessary.
No, it isn't. Let me click on the next one. Oh, this is okay. And I'm guessing because I don't know. I haven't shown you the picture yet, but this is the same scenario, but Dawn has stepped into the picture, I believe. Let me spin it around. Tell me which way to move it.
Yeah, that's up just a little. There you go, right there. Yeah, that's Dawn. She's wearing a hat that I made for her and a jacket that I think she's wearing a jacket vest that I made. And that's Marilyn holding up his new wallet.
It's fabulous. Now, what with making this wallet, obviously leather. Was there anything? Did you do anything really kind of different? I mean, everything you do is different, but what sort of embellishments or other things did you do on this wallet that were specific to what you thought Marilyn would want? I mean, she obviously needed a wallet, but you were able to fill in those other gaps and make it unique for that individual.
Yeah, so, I mean, aesthetically, obviously, it was the Hans Belmer artwork that I replicated into it, which was completely my choice to do because I was very enamored with it. But technically, I used a veg tan. I believe it was like a 6-ounce veg tan, and then the whole inside is pigskin. I like pigskin for internals because you can really put a lot of use on it and it doesn't wear as fast as cowhide under friction, thin cowhide anyway.
Okay.
So it was stitched up, I believe, with a 277 poly thread. I just wanted something that can go in and out of the pocket a million times and not wear out.
Yeah, make it last.
Yeah. But ultimately, it was the Hans Belmer artwork that really got him excited. It was funny. I do want to add, Marilyn Manson he's a very shock rock. His genre is very dark, creepy shock rock, but he is a super cool guy, super nice guy. when we got there, I went over to sit down by him, and he's got like bodyguards and everything. These celebrity types. They always have these security people all around him.
Sure.
And I said, "Oh, I almost forgot. I brought you this." And I went to reach in my pocket to grab it, and his security guy goes, "You can't do that. You can't do that." And he didn't know anything about it.
Sure.
And Marilyn went like that to him. He said, "It's cool." And I said, he goes, "Oh, yeah. Like it all kind of clicked, And I said, I almost forgot, we were trying to get in here and it was so chaotic. The reason I came here, I almost forgot to pull it. But, and then he gave me a big hug. And what I got out of him was, he's that guy that I would be in the basement playing video games and drawing creepy comics with. He's that guy.
Okay.
Just kind of like, if you want to be expressive, you want to explore this crazy drawing, because he's a good artist himself, and he's that guy that you would, if you really want to break him down as a human, the boys hanging out, drawing comics and playing video games, I could totally see that with him.
That's awesome. Let me see what the next one is. I don't remember all the ones that you sent. This is a real different one. Let me spin this around and show this to you. Just tell me up, down, left, right.
Right about the face on it's a little bit shaded out, but the bottom I can see.
Is that better? Better like that?
Yeah. So that is the artwork on Marilyn's wallet.
Okay, so that's a close-up of the wallet then.
That's a close-up of the wallet with the leather carving. I don't remember if I have pictures of the zoomed-out wallet, but I did get pictures of the artwork on it because that was the most.
I think you've.
I think 1931 or something.
And again, I mean, have you been this the inspiration for this goes back to that artist from Germany. But have you been to Germany before? Have you traveled abroad at all, or traveled anywhere?
No.
That would be.
I've traveled to the Cayman Islands, and I've traveled.
It just froze.
There we are.
There you go. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, I've gone to the islands. I've gone to, things like that. I haven't gone to Germany yet. Haven't gone to Europe yet because I've had opportunities to, but
We're unfroze again, I think. Waiting for network. It's popping up as waiting for network. I don't know if that's on my end or on your end, but yep, you're back, I think, pretty much.
Honestly, I hate flying. Yeah, mine's not waiting for the network at all.
It's probably on my end then. It's probably on my end.
Yeah, usually when it does it on mine, it'll do the same thing and say, waiting for network, and it'll go pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, and I'm using a combination of cell and Wi-Fi right now on my phone, I think. So it either might be the cell tower, maybe there's a squirrel up there with a mirror reflecting the signal periodically or something like that. But we've had a pretty good steady stream all in all. So And again, not being an artist, I'm not familiar with this particular work, but again, just what you're able to do with the leather, the detailing, the depth, the contrast, and everything else is just, I mean, you see basic stuff like on belts and other things like that, but the depth of what you do is just fabulous. I think we just lost you. Hold on a second.
Hello.
You're back.
I'm back. Maybe that'll actually help when it reconnects.
Hopefully. Either that or somebody knocked that squirrel off of the tower, I hope, so.
Oh yeah, I got my voodoo took him out.
Hold it up. Hold it up.
It's got sewing needles in it.
Oh my gosh.
This is my pin cushion for when I'm making patterns.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my
Some
gosh.
little crafty person made this, so I bought it from him because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And you can't find these types of hold downs anymore.
Oh, those are super cool. I don't know that I've ever had one of those before. Those are really neat. What's
Yeah, so I got these from Ralph's Power Sewing, and I use them all the time when I'm fitting pinning down a pattern or a seat cover. So I could get real accurate shapes.
what did you name your voodoo doll? Or is he nameless? He or she?
Yeah, it's I think it's and it's a pin cushion.
Yeah.
I just call it pin cushion.
I thought you were going to come up with something like Bubba or Ralph or something like that. So.
I was going to call him Spike.
Let me show you this next one. Sure. I don't know if that's part of the same project or if that's an entirely different project, but.
That's a whole different project. It's mixed in with the model that I sent you pictures of. That's the skeleton of a vampire bat that I carved into a leather garment.
You know, if you hadn't told me that, I would have guessed that it was a skeletal type bat thing. I mean, the detailing is enough. You can see that. Now, you're looking at this image. How do you what type of leathers are you working with to get that color contrast on that image?
That's just veg tan leather. That's the natural color of it on the actual artwork, and then I use dye to wash out the background.
Oh, you're using dyes then with it as well. So that's how you're getting the contrast to make it pop like that, because it's popping out and it's giving a three-dimensional look as well, and even down to, you can't see it now because I turned the camera back, but even down to the detail of the teeth and the jaw structure of the bat as well. How did you Google things, or how did you get that detail, or did it just kind of come out of your mind?
I just looked at some quick pictures of vampire bat skulls, and then I didn't use any particular one. I just drew it just by taking a quick look to kind of get an idea of what would be missing once it was decomposed into a skeleton. And I just looked and said, oh, makes sense. So I drew it out, and I made it. I have to freehand everything to make it fit the piece anyway. So
sure. And I'm seeing stitching along the edging. Talk about the stitching along the edging in that, because it looks like I don't think I've seen any of your leather work that doesn't, in some way. I'm sure there is, but I haven't seen any of it so far that doesn't incorporate some degree of stitching to finish off the edges and to kind of frame it off.
Yeah, I think I did that stitching. I think I did that on my Singer 111W. Yeah, I just used like a 138 poly thread, and what I do is since the base of it, and she had to wear it, and you'll see it in the other pictures, she's wearing it, and it goes across the midsection. You know, she's a model. She's a pinup model.
Okay,
and,
okay.
I used a soft leather liner on the back. It was like a really soft sheepskin, so that veg tan wouldn't be so rough on her. So I did that, and I burnished the edges to mold it all together nice. But yeah, I think that's a 138 thread stitch with the Singer 111.
I want to say the 11Ws were used aboard Navy vessels quite a bit post World War II. They were. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the interview I did with John Smith out of Florida, but John Smith out of Florida was a Navy man. He also then went on to work for NASA and that. But he talked about the machines they used aboard ship, and I want to say it's exactly the same model that he referenced. It's such a rugged, low maintenance machine. Once they're running well, and you got somebody who can tweak them occasionally, and that they're fine. But that's another beautiful piece. Let me click on the next one.
Okay.
Well, Is that all you sent me, maybe, or are there some additional ones? I'm trying to
I
remember.
think there was some other ones. Hold tight real quick, Scott. I got someone at the door. I'll be right back.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, Dusty stepped away. I'm going to see if I can find those other pictures. I want to say they were over here. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what you folks think so far, but I am utterly fascinated with the scope of work that Dusty does, and I know that he sent me some other pictures. I'm having trouble finding them right now. I know you sent me those other pictures, and I'm trying to. Did you send those to my Cow Country one, or the directly to me at Scott?
I sent the first round of them to Cow Country and the second round directly to your...
The personal one. Okay. For some reason I'm having trouble locating them right now.
And I may be able to double the screen and just repop them to you if you need, but then I don't know if it would be hard to upload on film or...
Just trying to look right now at...
That was a lady police officer at the door. They were looking for somebody, and I just started singing to her. It ain't me you're looking for, babe.
Oh, man. What kind of look did she give you when you did that?
She laughed.
Oh, that's funny.
They're starting to get to know me. We've only been in this town for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, so people around here are starting to get to know me.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, check on Cow Country, check photos and videos, and they should pop right up.
Because you sent them to me by messenger, right? So they should be they should be in my messenger folder. But I'm looking at that right now, unless I have two different entries. Because I think some of those were of Johnny, and I know you had a couple of other folks on there as well.
Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp.
Why am I not seeing them? That's so weird.
Let me tell you about Johnny Depp. I like that guy.
What do you like about him?
Oh, well, I'll say this. I'm not a big passive entertainment person, so I'll just tell you the story while you look for the pictures.
Sure.
I think the last Johnny Depp movie I had seen before I did the project for him was the Gilbert Grape or something like that. Like, it had literally been decades, right? And so, again, you know, somebody had wrote in, well, the Hollywood vampires, they seem to like your work, because somebody was telling me this. And I was like, well, who the heck is that? Well, Alice Cooper, he developed this band, and Johnny Depp's part of it, and Joe Perry of Aerosmith, and yada yada. And oh, okay. Well, ironically, the first album I ever got at 8 years old from my dad was Alice Cooper, $1 Billion Baby. So this is me at 8 years old. That's my first exposure to a vinyl record, you know.
Oh my gosh.
I always loved the old theatrical sound of his old band, but I
Sure.
didn't stick with it when he got into the 90s and started getting kind of hair band sounding, you know.
Sure. I'm going to click on your
And
I'm going to click on your photos on your page because I don't know what's going on. I could see them on my phone because I actually looked at them before I came back to the workshop, and I looked at them on my phone and I could see them, but they're not popping up on screen right now. And if I have to, I'll call you back and I'll show them show them on the phone instead of on here. But these doggone technology pieces, they just don't always cooperate when you want them to. So.
oh yeah, I know how it is. And there was a couple people that them and they went through, but they're pretty close. What did we freeze up there?
Only for a second. We only froze for a second, but
they're pretty close in my photos.
you know, if you've got them on your phone though, right? Because what I could do, that's probably what I'll do. Let me see here. See if I can change this up. I've got your Facebook page open right now, so do you have some of those images on your Facebook page too?
The stuff of Johnny and Alice, I put, it's on there, but it's on, I took it down because people started acting really crazy when I put that up there.
Okay, okay.
I can resend them to you real quick. They're
Go ahead and resend them because send them to the Scott one, and if you have to call me back or I have to call you back, I can do that if you have to do it on your phone. But I definitely want to show those because I was looking at them. I was looking at them on the phone.
Let me see if there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it while we're still on here.
I just don't know why.
If I go like this.
I don't know why they're not popping up.
Yeah.
I'm going to refresh the page.
I can send them to you.
And you just sent, did you send those this morning or was that late last night? I don't remember. It was this morning, wasn't it?
It's been like a couple days ago.
Okay.
But they're actually going to come through to you here in just a minute because I actually have this page pulled up.
Okay.
So I think I can do it while we're still on the line.
Yeah. I'm going to click on it again and see if I can get it to open up.
I'm multitasking on electronics. I'm proud of myself.
I'm telling you, you're going to get a reputation. Watch out.
Yeah, you got to be very careful. Because I have worked very hard at my bad reputation. And I don't want it ruined with good vibes today.
Hey, what did Mark?
Maybe later.
What did Mark Twain say? Mark Twain is the one that said, "We wouldn't worry so much about what other people thought if we realized how seldom they did in relation to us." So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we shouldn't dwell on it because they don't think about us very often anyway. So, unless they're drumming up a bad vibe or something.
Here's the pictures of the Johnny Depp, Alice Cooper stuff, and then there's a picture of Alice wearing his belt, which I think those are the ones I sent you the other day.
Let me see if they pop through this time. I don't know why this thing is not being nice to me. Okay, these are GIFs, so yeah, they should be there. Oh, thank goodness. You, my friend, you are a genius. I wonder why they show up on my phone, but they didn't show up on here before. So let's click on these and see if I can get these to cooperate now. We will
Somewhere there was a picture.
we will defeat technology. We will defeat it, especially with a cool thing like this. Take a look at that. Tell me up or down or left or right.
You're pretty good right there. There is actually a little story around that guitar strap.
Okay, tell us about this. Tell us about this guitar strap. Do you need to see it more, or can I spin you back around?
No, I mean it would be a thing where if you get to where you can post the kind of the full picture, because it being a slender guitar strap, that's it's got some details that would need maybe zoomed in a bit. But if you look up ahead of it, above of it, the actual carving right there,
Up
above, you see the inlaid lettering
way up here.
right up above the Raven skull, and then there's my nameplate, and then behind that there's some lettering that says Colonel.
Okay, yeah. Talk about that.
So, this is a fun short story. When I hand drew and painstakingly took an X-Acto blade and cut out each letter out of tumbled cowhide, and I stitched it on that old 3114 down to the tumbled pebbled black bison. So it's a double overlay, inlay kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But the story goes, I was saying earlier that I never really watched Johnny's movies. It's like since like Gilbert Grape, so like decades. I have never seen a Johnny Depp movie. I never saw. Still to this day, I haven't seen the Pirates movies. I'm not up on all that. But where I did get a little bit intrigued on all that was, he was friends with Hunter S. Thompson. Now, I was friends with this gentleman named Dano, who was a big Hunter Thompson fan, and Dano was a little bit like Hunter Thompson, kind of grumbly, like that, and he would kind of make eye contact once in a while, and he'd be reading a book, and he's like, hit it there, like, he was a lot like Hunter Thompson, right? And he got me into reading about Hunter Thompson, and kind of, filling in his life a little bit, like, it's really amazing to me how there's a lot of people out there that are Hunter Thompson fans that never even read his books. They were just enamored with him, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And through that, I ran across interviews of Johnny Depp talking about Hunter Thompson. And I was like watching the interview, and I was like, well, he seems pretty cool. I never paid much attention. And I even told him when I met him, I don't really know your movies that much. I'm sorry. But there was a particular point where he was talking about after, Hunter had checked out. He said he missed those 2 a.m. phone calls where he said he always called me Colonel. That was his nickname. He was Coloneled up. And he said it was, he'd call me up at 2 a.m. and go, hey, Colonel, it's Hunter. What do you know of hairy black tongue disease? It's everywhere, man. We must avoid it.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought that was a neat friendship because it was, from what he described of it in his interview, was very similar to my friendship with Dano.
Okay.
And Dano, I felt a connection to ship with Hunter. That's the only part of Johnny Depp that I really publicly had any kind of enamorment over, but the movies and all that I just didn't keep up on. So the guitar strap, I sort of pay homage to his friendship with Hunter because I thought it was a cool friendship. So when I walked in and handed him his new guitar strap, I held up the Colonel lettering and I said, you know why I did that, right? And he thought that was just a
You just froze.
Alice Cooper.
There it is.
Right? There we go. Yeah, I was really excited to meet Alice Cooper, but the more Johnny spoke to me, the more I was like, hey, I feel fortunate because I actually can say I liked him as a person because I didn't really know him that much as an actor.
It's sometimes better that way. It's sometimes better that way. You haven't had your opinion formed and sculpted by the on-screen stuff that can really distort who they really are.
Yeah, no, was like, the more I talked to him, the more I was genuinely like, I like this guy. He's cool. He's like a kindred spirit, and I just real cool. And I will say this about Johnny Depp. This is what my personal experience with Johnny Depp. When you're hanging out with Johnny Depp, even if there's a relatively short interaction, I've met him a couple times.
Oh, we lost you. We lost him again. Hold on a second. Let me call him back. We're back. Pretty quick here. I'm gonna attach Dixie cups and string to my phone because I think it's probably my phone.
Yeah, it could be fighting between the Wi-Fi and the mobile data.
I'm gonna touch the phone and lift up my left foot and point east any second now. Just wait for it. Wait for it.
I will put on my tinfoil hat.
Yes, do it. Oh, I love it. So you were about to say your personal view of Johnny Depp. Tell us what that is.
When you're around him, you feel like everything's cool. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what. Everything's cool. He's just got that kind of like I said about Freddie Roach, where his demeanor is just, you don't feel like, oh my God. I mean, there was women going nuts over him. They were like lactating in my back pocket while I was waiting to go in there. I mean, it's craziness, but he was so cool about it all, you know? And when we talked, it just felt like, man, I told him, I said, I could sit down, pour some coffee, and talk to you about creativity all night. He goes, yeah, you know, and he really liked what I did for him and everything, which felt good. But I felt what was exciting about that wasn't that it was for a celebrity. What was exciting about it was that it felt good to make something that made someone else feel good. And that's the same with every project, you know?
Well, and if that person you make it for, whether they're a celebrity or otherwise, if they look at the work and they see you in that work, that's what makes the whole thing rewarding, I'm sure, is a lot of people, you know, these people can buy anything they want. They've got the resources to do it. But when you take your own skill and you pour yourself into a piece like this, and they recognize it, you can feel genuinely that they really recognize what you put into that piece for them. All of a sudden, it's really not even about the piece anymore. It's not about the celebrity. It's about Dusty. It's about what Dusty has plugged into that, poured into it, to make that. Oh, it's a one of a kind.
Yeah, and you know what's ironic about that? You know, I went off on that big Facebook tangent last night about that sort of thing. And the reason is because I get genuine enjoyment out of taking, like, it starts out about me and my vision, but I get genuine enjoyment out of making it about you. To my discretion, like, I had the opportunity to look at his style, look at his look, and say, I think this belongs well on him. This is my rendition of what I think suits him well, because at the end of it, it's literally about them because it becomes their thing made by me. And when people try to make it about themselves right up front, it takes that pleasure away from me of saying, look, I made this, it's mine, it's my piece. You're wearing my piece. But at the end of the day, I got pleasure out of making it for you, right? Because artwork is the one thing, any kind of artwork, music, theater, painting, sculpting, any of it is the one thing in this world that if I had a Snickers bar and I shared it with 3 other people, I'd get 1/4 of that Snickers bar. But artwork, I can 100% share with everybody I want to, and it's still 100% mine.
That's a great analogy.
Right. That's the beauty of creativity, you know, or knowledge or anything like that. You could tell me something about a sewing machine that I didn't know yesterday. You still 100% own that knowledge. And now you've shared it with me, and now I 100% own that knowledge. And neither of us has less. We actually are giving more all the way around without it sucking the life out of us. Like, Just because you share your knowledge doesn't mean you have less now. It just means I only have more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of how we used to refer to that at one time, and I usually don't admit this publicly. At one time, I worked in corporate America many, many, many moons ago, and we talked about the multiplication factor, where when you keep something to yourself, 1 + 1 only equals 2. It'll always only equal 2. But as soon as you start sharing that, and there's no boundaries, and there's no agenda, and there's no ego involved, 1 + 1 equals 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, because that one person that we share that with then goes on to share it with others, and it just continues to propagate itself. So,
Right.
I mean, that's the way it should be. That's what some of those master people that you kind of leaned into as a young person, to learn part of what they did and to get some inspiration from them. They were part of
Right.
that 1 + 1 equals 3. They were sharing with you, and that now you've passed it on and done it through projects like this that you did for Johnny. So
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to deny it's nice to be able to say, yeah, Johnny wears my stuff, and Alice, this people. It's a nice feeling to know that your work has people recognize it. I mean, you wouldn't be human if you would say it didn't feel good to have it go in those places. But ultimately, there we go.
you're back.
I'm getting in. I'm getting in sync with this freezing. It's working. But I mean, ultimately, to see someone genuinely, him or anybody, just light up and be like, this is, and it's for you. That's where it's at to me. You know, that's what makes me happy, is to know that, like, it's the only one in the world like it. I don't, you know, and the jobs, I have a mixture of jobs with these people, because I've done like some CD cover designs for people. I've done some things like that. Some of the jobs there's a lot of dollars attached to them. There's a lot of things like that. Some of the jobs, sometimes I'll look at somebody and go, I just want to do that job because it feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. And that's got to
I,
be
you know,
that's got to be tough on you. That's got to be tough on you because you said earlier you've never been motivated by money. It's not about the dollar signs, but at the same time, you do something like this, you've got to attach a value to it. You've got to attach to account for your time, your creative juices, and everything else. That's got to be a tough give and take, kind of a tug of war almost, when you're trying to sometimes look at, okay, I'm going to do this for so and so, and what do I charge for it? And I mean, that's got to be kind of tough.
I've come to find out through just time and experience, because I came from a place where, at one point, there was several points early on. It was like, do I put gas in my pickup today, or do I eat? You know, and but I learned through that, and then all the way up to charging big money for these really custom projects, and being able to go out and buy myself a new motorcycle when I want to, or something like that, right? All those variations, what I learned as a consistent is, somehow money comes and goes, you know? Somehow we find a way to pay our bills. Somehow we find a way to do the things we want to do on whatever level. And what I learned is that big payments, little payments, any kind of in between, money comes into your life, it goes out of your life. That's the way it is. But how you feel about what you did and what your intent was when you did it is what stays. You know, it's kind of like, have you ever been working on a sewing machine and maybe you saw that it needed that? I'm almost, Vegas statistic odds says that you've done this. I'm just stabbing in the dark. You saw that the machine needed this thing that you didn't necessarily charge them to do, but you just knew it was the right thing to fix that thing, because you just didn't want it to leave your workshop subpar, because just in your heart of hearts, your ethics kicked in and said, it's only going to take me an extra 20 minutes to fix that. I'm just gonna fix that. I have the part laying here. It's not doing me any good sitting on my shelf, and I'm just gonna do that so I know it's right when it leaves. I mean, you've probably done that, I'm sure.
Countless times, yeah, and again, it's a conscience thing, and it's an ethic thing, and it's the way you're wired, it's the way you're raised. You talked about, the way your dad raised me. I was raised in a similar way: do it right or don't do it at all, and you carry that forward to your work. So yeah, numerous times something, or this one lady one time came in and she was just almost in tears because she had taken the machine into a local repair shop, and when she got it back, it was worse off as far as trying to get the tension right, and she was trying to sew and finish a project for her daughter. It was on a tight timeline, and this other place had she tried to go back and plead with them, explaining what was at stake, and they basically just said, get out of here. They tried to blame her for their poor work, because once I looked at the machine, it was obvious that, number one, they had put the upper tension control back together wrong, so it wasn't functioning like it was supposed to. The take-up spring that allows the release of stitching so you can move forward with stitching, it was adjusted too low, so it was causing the thread to break. And it was a matter of, I was able to sit down to the machine, and I'm like you, I like listening to music when I'm working. So I had some music on in the background. She just kind of sat down on the bench and kind of composed herself. And within, gosh, was it 20 minutes? Maybe less. Within 20 minutes, I said, her name is Carol. I said, Carol, come over here and try this out now. Tell me what you think. She sewed a couple rows, was almost in disbelief because it was only 20 minutes later. Sewed a couple more rows, adjusted the material a little bit, sewed a couple more rows. She turned around and she said, I don't know what you did, but it's magic. And I don't have a voodoo doll, so I can't claim that as my secret power. But like when you did this for Johnny, or the other work that you've done for other people, it doesn't have to be a celebrity. Someone that just looks into that work and sees you, sees a reflection of Dusty, sees a reflection of what you brought to that piece that no one else in the world could bring to it because of your God-given gifts. She looked at me that way, and it was obvious. And she said, I got to pay you something for this. I said, you just did. She said, what do you mean? I said, the look you just gave me. The look of that thing that I need to do for my daughter, it's going to get done. So that's some of those things that are non-material based are sometimes the greatest payments that we can get for the work that we're called to do. It's super cool. It's super cool. I think, yep, you're unfrozen again.
Yeah.
Let me.
Somehow we were smooth through that one.
Yeah, I hardly even felt the bump in that road. Oh, that's the wrong way. Let me go this way.
Johnny, it was like I could see it all over his face when I was talking to him. I could see it all over him. He had this air about him that was like, I just want to play my guitar, man. I just want to hang out with my buddies and play my guitar. I could see that with him.
Sure.
And it was get where you're coming from. I feel because they always got someone pawing at them, wanting to take a piece of them. It's like this obsession. It's like, come on, they're just people, they're just creative people, and they just happen to have more recognition around their creativity than some of us, and that's okay,
Absolutely, and when you can ground them back to just wanting to, I'm going to turn you around to this next picture. When you can ground them back and give them that feeling of you're there with them, you're not there because of their bodyguards or because of their fame. It's a win-win for everybody. Talk about this one and tell me left, right, up, down, whatever.
Looks like you have it pretty clean. Go up just a tiny bit. That's good right there. That's the stage belt I made for Alice Cooper.
So this one you made for Alice Cooper. Is this vegetable tan as well? I know it sounds like you work with vegetable tan quite a bit, and then did you use a combination of dye work on this one too to get the contrast?
Yeah, so the main centerpiece.
I think you froze again. Let me check. Oh, I lost you. Boy, we are just.
We're back from a visit from our sponsor.
Yes, yes. Call now and get your Ginsu knife while they're still available. Call now. Oh my gosh, yeah. This will be the longest.
Yeah,
This will be the longest premiere in history because of the disconnects, but that's okay.
it
Um,
makes it more fun. I like life's variables. That's what it's all
absolutely.
about.
So, what? How are you? I'm pointing kind of up here, and tell me if I moved the camera. I probably did. But up here, you've got the skull, but then you've got all this inlay work. How do you? What is that about? How do you do that?
You mean on the forehead or around the edges?
All the way around, even down above the teeth here, you've got some of that. It's a darker contrast. It's obviously you're cutting into the leather, and then are you dyeing that to make it pop like that, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I just swipe it with leather antique. So you just put it on a sheepskin rag, and you just rub it in really good, and come back with a clean rag and just wipe it, and it goes into all the rough crevices that you beat into it with your leather tools.
Okay,
So it accentuates the shading in the carving.
sure, sure.
So when I made that, I used a combination of bison and snakeskin and veg tan. So there's three different leathers on that piece.
Oh, you got what part of it? What part is it of the? It's down here, and I'm gonna point at the screen that you can't see, but down to the left side of it, this is a belt. That's where you laid the snakeskin. I can actually see the scaly surface on it. So you blended what, three different types of leather into one piece then?
Yeah,
What about the are those rivets, or what kind of riveting did you do on that to make it to give it the different dimensions around the skull?
yeah. Those are decorative leather rivets. You can use them to both hold things together or just for decoration. So I used some of it for both. They have ones that you use just for decoration. They call them round spots, and they just have teeth and they poke in and bend. But these particular ones I used on his actually drive all the way through and help hold everything together.
Now, how many pieces on this? I'm trying to look at the piece and figure it out. How many layers do you have here where those rivets are having to go through those leather layers and hold that together so it's a single belt, it's a single unit?
Oh, let me think here back. It's been a little time since I made that, but if I remember right, it's like a couple layers I had to go through.
I'm seeing like
Um,
three, maybe four, it looks like, yeah.
in certain places where I overlaid the leather on top of the leather on top of the leather.
When do you remember approximately what year you made this for Alice Cooper?
This has been right before COVID hit, so like it was like around May of 2019.
This is fairly recent then. I was thinking you were going to say way back when, but that's
No,
fairly recent.
no, he was still using it before the tours got shut down. He was so excited. He goes, "This is going on stage tonight." He put it on that night. It was kind of funny was I didn't have him in front of me to fit it because usually when I make pieces for people,
Sure.
I take measurements right off of them, and that's the way I met Dawn. Was she came to me for a kidney belt for because she rides motorcycle and she was getting a tired back on long trips, and another friend of ours said, "Oh, Dusty made me this kidney belt, right? You got to go see him." And Dawn came to me to get one made, and I fit her up for a belt, and we just hit it off, and I never let her go. But what was ironic was she wears the same size belt as Alice Cooper, so I actually made the belt fit her, and it fit him.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh my gosh, talk
Yeah,
about destiny. Destiny coming
yeah,
together. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, how cool. How cool.
I find it weird that doing this because more or less it was a surprise to the band. I had heard through the grapevine that they wanted to see my work and they were interested in getting something made, and it was like a nice to getting the job, and it was really Dawn that was like, just do the work, just do what you know is right. Just do the work. The getting it to them will happen. But just do the work, because you'll feel a sense of creative freedom and relief out of fall into place. She was right. She was absolutely right. The whole venture fell into place like it was supposed to. You know. Well, we had a freeze-o.
Yeah, we were freezing again. I'm glad you weren't drinking when we were freezing. That stuff would have gone all over you. But wow, what a smart lady, huh? What are you drinking? A Coke? Oh, you froze on it again there for a second, but yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful belt. I could see why he'd want to wear it right as soon as he got it. It's fabulous. It's fabulous.
Put a mic holder on the side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I noticed that he used a mic holder on stage to holster the microphone while he's doing his theatrics.
And then you've got that larger rivet almost as a centerpiece, and it's got a little red center on it. Is that some sort of a stone, I assume, huh?
That is, yeah, it's a concho that I found that they don't make anymore. So I had them saved in my spare parts drawer for like years, just waiting for the right special project to put it on. And it turned out that it fit really nice.
Oh, we lost him again. I'm calling back. We're not going to give up on this. Hey,
Our new 5G.
Yeah, exactly. I think I have maybe 3.5 G's today or something. Maybe 3.25. Oh my gosh. Let me click on the next one. We're gonna keep on. I'll call you back 1,000 times. I don't care.
It's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like we have to dial a rotary phone or anything. Oh, there's Johnny wearing the guitar strap.
I love this piece up on his left shoulder. That piece that kind of joins it and kind of points down.
Yeah, so that's my nameplate right above the raven skull that I had carved into it. And I was happy to see that it fit right where I wanted it to fit.
Now, how did you end up getting this particular picture of him wearing it? Were you at the concert? Did one of his producers or whoever supply it to you? How did you get a hold of it?
That was taken by, I can't remember their name. They worked for a radio station and they posted a picture of it. So I just saved it and I gave credit to the photographer.
Sure. Yeah.
For taking the picture, but it was just a really good photo. But also, I think we were at the show. As a matter of fact, that picture was the exact night I handed him that strap. And he put it on the guitar right away, and it made me feel good because he put it on his favorite guitar, his own designed guitar that he has. So, and I can't remember if that was the actual picture from them or if it was one of the photos Dawn took, because she's a pretty decent photographer. She's actually really good. She's way better than she gives herself credit for. But I can't remember if it was her photo or his photo, but it was one of the two.
I just wanted to zoom in on that a little bit to get up near your nameplate in that.
Yeah.
It all comes together so well on his outfit too. It's like there was the design blend of his outfit along with the strap. It's like they were made together. It's like they were made at the same time.
It was funny because I met back up with him a few days later in California, and I came walking in, asked him how their stuff worked, and he goes, "Oh man, I love it. I'm getting all of my stuff, what do you call that, accessorized to this guitar strap." And I'm going, "Oh, so you want more?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "All right, well, let me know."
I love it.
Like getting more work off of him. I just thought it was fun to do, and then of course he went to Europe and was gone forever. But yeah, he was really, really happy that he could have some kind of cool centerpiece to accessorize to. And it's kind of cool that a couple dudes could stand there both wearing eyeliner and talk about accessorizing, and it was all fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just tell Johnny, hey, your people call my people, and I'll hook you up.
Yeah, you have your people call my people, and my people will definitely respond to your people.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Let's just meet back at the Woody Creek Tavern where you met Hunter, and let's just talk about it over some tacos.
Yeah, exactly. They
I think that's more his speed.
they call your shop and just use different voices. Yes, hello, this is Dusty's workshop. Hold on one second, please. Patch the call through. I'm gonna patch the call through now, Johnny. Just hold on a second now. Yeah. Create
Hello,
this.
Johnny, are you receiving my transmission? Yes. Breaker, that kind of thing.
I saw that premiere and we only disconnected once. I think you did it like a dozen times, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Now this is the same one, but I think it's the same picture, I think, but it's more of a black and white. Let me spin you around.
Yeah, that's another angle of that same show. See, that guitar there is a guitar that he designed, I believe.
I didn't know that about him. So he does design of guitars along with all the other stuff he's doing then.
Well, he originally set out to be a musician, and the acting thing kind of fell in his lap. So I think it was kind of cool. I told him this. I said, you know, he kind of just went off to do this band thing, and it told me to kind of just go my own road and do what I want to do, you know. So that was the symbology kind of behind that project. Was like, yeah, just do your thing. Do what you feel is right to do. If it's a project and it feels right.
I moved you to the other side of the computer thinking that we get a better feed, but I'll move you back again. Can you see me okay right now?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to go with your gut, right? I mean, you can analyze things, you can pull together, think tanks and all the other stuff, but sometimes you just got to go with what feels like it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do.
I believe 100% of the time we should go with our gut. I've never had it lie to me. You know, have you ever had a gut feeling about something, but you went the other way anyway, and you look back and go, man, I had a feeling I should have not done, you know. It's like always consistently, it turns up that if you always turns out to be the right feeling, the right result.
Yeah. I think it's the equivalent for guys. Guys call it the gut thing, women call it intuition. It's kind of our internal superpower, but oftentimes we're busy and we're pushing ego and other things like that. We're listening to a lot of other voices telling us which direction to go, and we turn a deaf ear to it. And that's usually when we go down the rabbit holes, when we make a wrong turn and we find ourselves on a course and we go, how the heck did we get here? And it's because we probably knew when we got to that fork in the road we were supposed to go left, but everyone else, all the other opinion polls and everything were saying go right, and it takes us down a direction that we never really wanted to go at all.
And Robert Frost explained this to us years ago, and we still don't listen.
That's because we apparently have a fear of yellow woods or something. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I actually have started sharing with people an odd experience in my life, and that is, for the last 2.5 years, I've had a very unique opportunity. So basically, this is just a kind of another fun short story, if you like to hear it.
Sure.
The way Dawn and I actually ended up living together was we were seeing each other. We had a great thing going, and she wrecked her motorcycle. She totaled it right in front of me. We were on a ride, and she was going to split off and go for this loop, and I was going to go to my work studio in the old town I lived in, and then we were going to meet back up for dinner that night, right? So I'm on my bike. We're leaving her house, and she went to turn off, and she hit some gravel and flipped the bike.
Oh,
and
man.
Totaled it. And she broke ribs and everything. It was horrible. So I stopped, pulled over, came back to her, and what that did was that led me to move in there to help her out, because for like a month she was having a hard time walking and what have you. You
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You you were her rehab person.
Yeah, because her other immediate family doesn't live nearby, so it was kind of like, I'm just going to do this because. So that being said, as we were developing kind of a under the same roof routine, it just sort of worked. Like it just was easy for us. It just sort of naturally molded into place, right? And when she got all better, she was like, "Well, I would feel weird if you just moved out." And I go, "Well, I won't want you feeling weird."
Here, twist my wrist a little bit. Twist my wrist. Twist my wrist, Don.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we were both actually kind of house shopping a little bit at that time. The timing just aligned, the stars aligned, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we found the place we're in now. We just were kind of looking for fun. We just found it and said, well, it's a place where we could put everything together. My workshop, her office, and it gave us the opportunity to go through both of our full storages and straighten up our physical habitat, so to speak.
Yeah.
And once we settled in here, I got this opportunity. That was a point when my workload at that point in time, I had like a 2-year backlog of custom leather work.
Oh my.
And it was like, I was just piling through it, and we got settled in here, and I finally finished the backlog. And that was a point where she said, stop taking orders because you're burnt. That's the complaining thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And I said, okay. And some jobs would come in here and there, these little one-off things, I would do them. And then I simplified and consolidated life to where bills were so easy to keep up with that I wasn't under pressure to keep lots of work hanging over my head.
Sure.
And what that did was it gave me an incredible opportunity that most people don't get until they retire. And that was the opportunity to sit back and figure out life and reflect and just look, just look in to what's really going on around you. And I had an incredible health journey through it. I had an incredible, lots of realizations. And it gave me a lot of realization, which is 3-dimensional. Understanding is 2-dimensional. It's like when you're growing up and you see your mom and dad driving the car and you're in the passenger seat, you understand what driving is, but until you get behind the wheel is when you, in full 3-dimension, realize what it is, right? And it let me realize what was really happening in the world around me. It made me realize kind of how people, what motivates them, just things. That's why sometimes you see me go off in a crazy way. I don't do it to be bad towards anybody, but I find a lot of paradox and humor in the irony of human nature in the world, the dynamic of the world. And now I'm starting to express that through my art.
Benjamin Franklin said, mankind are odd creatures. One half censure what they practice, the other half practice what they censure. So,
right.
Yeah, that paradox of humanity and what you just described so beautifully was the difference between observing something and experiencing something. We can stand on the sidelines. When I was serving in the military and we were learning how to rappel down the mountainsides and that, our instructor could show it to us a dozen times. This is what you do. This is how you have to kick off. This is how you have to release the rope. This is what your belay person needs to do. This is your brake hand and how you control that braking as you're going down. But until you're actually hanging off the side of that cliff and you're applying what you observed to what you're experiencing, all of a sudden then it's, like you said, I've never heard it described like that before, but it's spot on. All of a sudden you go from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional. It all of a sudden has purpose and application. It's probably like watching a video on doing leather work as opposed to when you sit down at a project and you actually put those tools to work on that leather and you see what effect you're bringing. It's so different. It's so different.
Yeah, I mean, we're all taught that like Mark Twain said, it's easier to brainwash someone than it is to convince them they've been brainwashed. Right?
I'm going to use that one in a premiere sometime in the future. You watch for it. I love that.
Right. And when you really think about the mind, what is the mind? The mind is not, we're not born with a mind. We're born with an intellect, right? The intellect memorizes phone numbers, what it used to when we had to. It memorizes names, it figures things out. The mind is nothing but intellectual dialogue. It's where, you're trying to lay in bed at night and all of a sudden, the worst music pops into your head. We didn't start the fire. And there's got to be something that rhymes with orange. These things that go into your mind when you're trying to sleep.
Sure.
And so what I tell people is the reason we do what we do, whatever it is, artwork, sewing machine tune-ups, repair, whatever it is, like when you're fixing a sewing machine and you have a good song on, it's you, the music, the machine, and your tools. That's it, right? When you're painting, it's you, the canvas, the brush, the paint. It gives us relief from our noisy intellectual dialogue. So in essence, there's not much use for the mind until we can program the subconscious to use it in a creative manner. So what I tell people to do to enhance their insanity or use it or suppress it, whatever you need to do in that moment, is lose your mind and come to your senses. Feel your way through it, And that's my life philosophy. Like, the time is not a real existing thing. It's a social institution. We have this linear thing in our mind that we're taught, past, present, future. Well, if you really think about it with your intellect, the past doesn't exist anymore. The future doesn't exist at all. The only time that really exists is here and now. If you have right now, you have all the time in the world because it's the only time that really exists.
There's a fun movie. I don't know if you've seen it with. Let me think of who's in it. Walter Matthau. I can see her face as vividly as I can possibly see it. She also played opposite Tom Hanks in the movie You've Got Mail. I'm trying to remember her name, but she's an actress.
Meg Ryan?
Yes, Meg Ryan. Thank you. The movie is called IQ, and I love that movie. I love it because you've got Albert Einstein played by Walter Matthau. You've got all of his sidekicks who are brilliant scientists. And what they conclude is that by the time you try to embrace the present, it's already the past. As you're looking out to the future, it's already coming into view as the present. So it's a matter of action. It's a matter of, as Dawn has said several times, what do you got to lose? Just do it. Just do it. Just move forward and just try it. And I mean, something good is going to come out of it. And so I mean, I enjoy that because I tend to be a very faith-driven spiritual person, and I always look at the future very optimistically, knowing that something good is waiting there, but being incredibly anxious sometimes about waiting for tomorrow to come because there's going to be something good on the other side of that. But the work that I see you doing, I can't describe it as anything other than legacy work. It's legacy work because it enriches you. As you said very honestly, you're not into the celebrity thing. That's not the driver. You love to see the reaction. You love to see the impact that you brought. You love to see the lasting impact that you've left with that individual, famous or otherwise. And, as I'm looking at the picture right now of Johnny on stage, you've touched his life forever. He's never going to forget you. And it's not because of the strap. It's because of what the strap did to transform who he is and what he does and how he does it. So I think that's when we can find something where we can do something legacy based, it's lasting. It doesn't matter past, present, or future. It's always going to be there in one form or another. So let's go on to the next picture. I don't even know what else you sent. I know I've looked at these before. Oh, that's a neat shot of... That's got to be... I'm distracted by your pants. Your pants are so cool. Hold on a second.
What, did I have my cool pants on? Oh yeah, yeah. Those are some old pants that they were blowing apart, and I painted night scenes on them and restitched them on my old 3150.
You froze again. Hold on a second. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, it froze again. So you sewed them on your 3115?
Yeah, they were some old cargo pants that I used to weld in, and the fronts were all blown out. So I had this canvas laying there. It's canvas material, not painting canvas, but clothing type canvas, right? And I squirted it with bleach and wrung it out, rinsed it out, and I stuck them on my easel, and I painted some like night scenes with like trees and moons and silhouettes of bats flying and whatever. And I left them tattered. I split the pants open, glued the patches down, and made the patches stuck them on with the machine, and then I split the bottoms open and made bell bottoms out of them and closed them all back up on the 3115.
That's
I
fabulous.
call them my cargo bells.
Now, what is
I
the
actually have several.
what is the setting here? You're obviously looks like you're up on stage or something like that, or where are you at in this shot?
No, we were actually just right by the bar, just in the back. They had this little back room area before they were getting ready to go play. And I had walked out. That was the actual moment that I walked in and handed him his strap. So, a gentleman named Kyler, who's Alice's photographer and helper, he was taking pictures of us all. And so Johnny held up the guitar strap next to me, and we just snapped a quick picture.
Oh yeah, okay, I can see. I didn't see that he was actually holding the strap out. I can see that now. I can see
Yeah.
that now. Super cool.
Yeah, when I first saw the picture, it looked like he was shaking no one's hand.
Well, yeah, or he was getting ready to do like this fist bump, but you weren't ready for it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yeah, but
he's got his fist closed and he's getting ready to come over or something like that. So
yeah, once I looked close, I was like, oh, he's holding up his guitar strap. Okay.
yeah, what a great picture! What a great picture! I'm trying to see what you have something around your neck, but I can't tell quite what it is. So
They gave us those VIP passes so we can go in and see them.
oh, that's what. Okay, it's a pass in. Okay,
Yeah, it's basically they just let security know that you're okay to be back there and all that.
that makes sense. That makes total sense. And I think I'm looking on both sides. That's the last one that you just sent me. So we actually got through all of those because
Yeah.
you resent them. I don't know what happened there, but I appreciate you doing that. So how many years have you, I mean, you started exploring some of this territory way back when you were being influenced a little bit by your dad and others, and but how many years have you been doing this now with this specialized leather work and all the other things that you're doing?
I think Abe Lincoln was in office.
Oh my gosh.
That's what it feels like anyway. I've been at it since I was a kid. Since I was 4 years old, I was drawing all the time, and my mom, we were really poor. She would scrape a few pennies together and get me drawing tablets and pencils. And then I started using painting when I was about 14 is when I got heavy into painting with the airbrush and paint brushes and what have you. That was when I met Tim. He was the guy that worked at my uncle's body shop. He just kind of took this old beat up airbrush parts out of a tackle box and he put one together and handed it to me. And I went off, and some other guy, he was a welder at a part-time other job I had. He built me a little air compressor out of spare parts in one of the assembly areas, you know.
Sure.
And I used to sit there and watch Tim paint. And then I'd go home and try to do what he did. And finally I rendered up a pretty nice painting. And Tim wasn't back in those days, he was one of these guys that would get way blasted and sleep in the body shop, you know. And he'd wake up kind of hungover, and he sees this painting I did. Like, did I paint that? I didn't remember painting. I walked in. Hey Tim, look what I did. He's like, when did you learn how to paint? I go, well, I've been watching you. And he goes, you've been watching me? And I said, yeah. I just wanted to see how you did it, and I went home and tried it. And he He goes, okay, I'm teaching you how to paint. So we spent a good number of years together. I would just go over there and he would just have me do the painting. He would step in and he would give me technical pointers that were really helpful, but mostly he forced me to teach myself because he knew that was the most effective way.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, so I don't want to not give him credit for his efforts to help me, but when I say I'm mostly self-taught, that's because Tim made me teach myself. You know, and he would step in and be like, oh, you know, here's this technical thing, here's that technical thing. But otherwise, he'd step back and go, paint the picture. And he'd go away and he'd come back. He'd say, okay, when you run into this, try that and try that. If it's not jiving with you, look at me and say, okay, Tim. And then when I walk away, go back to the way you were doing it. But this is just a piece of information that might be helpful. Otherwise, paint the picture. And he'd walk away. So, very helpful, but really, he left it up to me.
Yeah, yeah. Put a little bit of wind in your sails, gave you a direction to go, but you ultimately had to steer that rudder. I mean, that's the best analogy I can draw for it is you get the basics and then you got to pick your own course. I mean, the way I work on machines, I'm not aware of anyone else in the world that does it the way I do it. I'm guessing if you were to look at your own work under a microscope and say, how do I do it? Why do I do it? How did it metamorphosize into this? You do it like no one else in the world. It's totally unique to you, and that's why your final product and your output is. I mean, you've struck me as incredibly humbled by the fact that people are that as excited as they are about what you do. I mean, you recognize it. It makes you feel good. But at the same time, you do it because you love it. You don't do it because you're seeking recognition. You're not looking for that applause. You're not looking for a VIP pass to get you in the back. You were looking to do something lasting and nice for somebody that would touch their life forever. And all these other fruits of it come as a result of it. It's putting your heart. I would argue it's putting your heart in the right place. It's putting your heart in the
Yeah.
right place and doing things for the right motivation.
Well, what I noticed being around Hollywood and being around, like, I've gone to New York, I've met some famous people, a pretty good amount of them, you know. I've done work for some, you know, high profile people, and some of it was gifted work, some of it was hired work. It's always a combination of the two. But what I notice is that made me kind of sad in the.
Hold on one second. You kind of locked up there. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, okay, I think we're back to movement. Yeah. But what I noticed that made me kind of sad is that everybody has a pitch. If they're doing something for somebody, it's like, what's in it for them? What do they want from you? Especially the more famous somebody gets, the more it's personal to that environment.
I think we've got video. I don't know if we have audio right now. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everyone has it's like a pitch. It's like an exchange. I'm going to do this, but this is what I want in return. Then.
Right, and what I wanted to do was just be like, you know, one of my most vivid memories growing up was my great grandma, who was this little 4'10" German woman, worked her butt off her whole life, taking us to the grocery store when I was a little kid. Me and my sister were little, and making sure we had groceries because we were broke. You know, and I remember my mom used to be like, you don't have to buy all these groceries for us. And I remember Grandma, she got upset with her and she said, look, I'm 72 years old, I'm retired, what good am I if I can't at least help my grandkids?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it just made her feel good to do something in her power to make somebody feel good or get by for a little longer or something. And I thought, you know, it would be cool to just do something, even if it's a hired job or, you know, whether it's a hired job or not a hired job. The fact is that you always have to want to do it. If you want to do it, your heart will be in it, and they'll always get your best work. And I don't want anything other than to say, yeah, I did that, and I enjoyed doing it, and I'm glad I did it. That's all I want out of the deal. you know, because how many people work jobs they hate to buy crap they don't need?
Yeah, yeah, very true, very true.
You know, so I think it's good to, you know, and I like when we were talking about the use of the mind, the more current pieces I do are it's just a reflection of when my mind goes off rails. Instead of fighting it, just paint about it or carve about it and put it to canvas or leather or metal or whatever, and you've gotten it out, so you can keep focusing for the next thing.
So when you finish a project, you kind of release it. Then you release it wherever it's going to whoever it's going. Do you ever reflect back on those project designs or whatever it is, and you try to plug them into something else, or are they a one off for you?
Sometimes they resurface and become a little bit of a theme on accident, you know, but that only happens out of pure fate. It only happens like you know, the little raven skulls. That's become kind of a theme because I'd be drawing and I would need to put something there, and I just would naturally draw that little raven skull face thing. So that kind of became a little bit of an accent thing for me, you know. Uh, so it's kind of both. It's kind of like one off, but then sometimes things I like to draw resurface. You know, it's not even some higher calling or anything. It's just like I like to make things, you know, and I feel fortunate that I always have enough work to keep my bills paid, and to kind of do the things I want to do, and I have enough resource to. Sometimes I get inspired, and it's like I want to make that thing for that person because I want to, and that's it. Just
And
because I want to.
and because you can, you're in a position where you can do it. You're not weighing between am I going to eat or am I going to put gas in the car anymore because you've got the steady workflow and you've got that stability. So it gives you that freedom, which is fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, why not? If you can, why not?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Well, what? Let's kind of. I took the shot where I had Johnny and you up. In that shot, and I had you as well, kind of in the foreground. Now I'm zoomed in close on you, so everybody can see you, and I'd like to kind of wrap it up with this and just say what you've given so many nuggets. You've given so many great nuggets about your motivation. You've given credit to Dawn. You've talked about the great folks that you've met. You've talked about that sense of reciprocalness when you do something because you want to do it, you enjoy doing it, but then you get that response from that individual where you can tell that they genuinely appreciate it. For any person watching right now that let's say that they are working in some space doing whatever it is they're doing, yeah, maybe they're painting, maybe they're doing clay work, maybe they're doing metal fabrication, who knows what they're doing, but they hear those voices of doubt in the back of their mind, and they don't have a dawn. They don't have a dawn to whisper encouragement and to sometimes nudge them a little bit. What message would you give to these folks? Because from my seat here, you've been incredibly blessed with what I would call greatness. Greatness not because you think big of yourself, but because of the opportunities that you've had a chance to step into and because of the legacy impact that you've left. But other folks are still struggling. They're still debating, am I going to eat today? Am I going to fill my tank? What encouragement or what words could you share with them so that they can try to find the path to go on?
Well, for years I worked as a welder. I worked in wood shops. I worked some of the jobs I enjoyed, but ultimately I worked a lot of jobs I didn't necessarily want to be at because I would have rather been in my own workshop doing my thing. Um, and I worked myself into a position of full time working here for myself, right? Um, I would say that on one hand, if you're a young person in that position and you're not terribly daunted with bills and responsibilities and things like that, um, money at that point in your life, if money is not an absolute necessity, like you maybe you're staying at home with your folks still. Maybe you have roommates. Maybe you're working part-time and you're covering your bills, but you really want to be whatever it is, a painter or whatever. I say do that and forget about the money aspect of it, because if you truly love, if it is you, if it is truly an extension of you, and it's which you know you belong doing that, you will do it so much. All talent is the passion to do something, and anything you do a lot of, you get good at, right? Once you achieve that level of skill at it, then obviously at some point you can get a good fee for it, right? But all of the people who have been successful, even Donald Trump will say, don't do it for the money. You know, whether you love the guy or hate the guy, you can say one thing about him. He says, I'm a deals guy and I love getting up and making deals.
That's
I
true.
don't do it for the money. I do it because I love doing it. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, there's some truth to that, and that's cool. That actually is the fundamental to his success, because if you love doing it, you're just always going to do it. And if you're just always doing it, you're going to be good at it.
Yeah.
Right? If you're at an older point in your life where you've piled on, because I've been both, you know, I worked and I got into my life, started to develop, and I had to maintain it. I would say don't put pressure on yourself and don't look at too many other people's projects and compare. I always say that like art and creativity is to be shared, not compared. You know, because let's look at Andy Warhol, for example. Okay, everybody's valuable in their own way. Andy Warhol's a good example. He used his mind to expose a different viewpoint of art. He was doing commercial art, and he found a way to publicize it into fine art by saying, hey, you know, what is so great about a picture of a bottle of Coca-Cola? And he says, because whether you're the president of the United States or a homeless person down on the corner, you can't get a better Coca-Cola because you're the president. You both enjoy the same level of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So I'm going to symbolize Coca-Cola
Sure.
because that's my outlook. Now, on a technical level, was Andy Warhol a great painter? Meh. But from an intellectual level and his viewpoint of his work, he brought something very valuable. And he's like a different perspective of like, you can outline this ink-blotted line and make it important in some way to say, hey, your view of it is valid. You're important. Just because maybe you can't paint as good as me doesn't mean you're less important than me, because you have something that's every bit as important to bring to the table. We just have to find out what it is. Right? So that's kind of what I say to them. Like, whatever you're doing, enjoy it and do it because you know it's right for you to do. Don't compare yourself to other people. I could paint hyper realistically. I have paintings I've done that were just super realistic. But after a while, it was like, well, if I really want to get that realistic, I have a camera in my pocket at all times.
Exactly. Yep.
Right? So maybe I need to step out of realism. If I want to see a landscape, I can drive to the Colorado mountains and stand in one. I don't have to paint one. So if I'm going to through my imagination, and technically it's maybe not as impressive as my hyper-realistic portraits, but it takes your mind to a different place, and that's the idea.
Yeah.
You know, the idea is the idea.
Yeah. Instead of in a fixed position, you can escape and you can take different paths. It's almost limitless. It's almost limitless when you.
Totally.
One other question for you. You've worked with a number of prominent people, and if they were to describe either you or your work in a single word, and you can pick more than one, you can pick one of them, whatever you want to do, how would they describe Dusty, or how would they describe their the impact that you brought to them through the creative piece that you did for them? What would that single word be?
Weird. Meaning weird is to this sounds egotistical, and I don't mean for it to, but the true definition of weird is to suggest something supernatural. But it's got to be just the right kind of weird. It's got to be like Johnny Depp is weird, but he's just the right kind of weird. My weird matched his weird just fine. It became a beautiful weird, you know, or something like that. Or they might say eclectic or paradoxical, because one minute you might see me do a very mechanically, like an upholstery job. There's a technique. We all have our own unique approach, but upholstery is a technique that if you follow, artwork is subjective. You know, you could. So I would say that they would look and go. Most of them might just say, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. Didn't he make me a wallet once?" That's what realistically I would hope they would say, like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy. I think he made me some," because that was then and this is now, and as our paths continue to cross, the relationships build as they should,
Sure.
right?
Yep. Yep.
But ultimately, I want them to say, "He did right by me," or "He did a nice job for me," or he expressed me quite well by expressing himself, right? I think that's kind of the best I can. There's enough negativity in life that I laugh at and work into my work. I mean, I painted a surrealistic picture of Adolf, for crying out loud.
I saw that.
People might, yeah, that was like one evening of my life where I had this picture that came up that I was like seeing all these things within things, and I just had to express the lines of it. And I knew that it would be powerful and odd and taboo, but I had to do it just because it was stuck up here and I had to get it out here, right? And so, if anything, if I could at least blow someone's mind and not be boring, that's the best.
They didn't nod off once while we were together. Yeah, exactly. Well,
Only the camera did.
yeah, we had enough of that today. Do you have, if you were to, last question, I promise. What if you were to point to probably the most influential hero, for lack of a better word, in your life? Who would it be?
Influential hero. Wow. You know, I can point out. I can't say the most because they all are equally important in a different way. But I can put it in a way that says those people like yourself. I meet you. You're in this workshop. You're fixing sewing machines. You have a knowledge and a skill that I can't just ask anybody about. I have to ask you. This special niche, specialty people who have found this one thing that they're very, very great at. Those have been influential to me because that's who I pick out as my friends. Like, I want to hang out with that person. They have something to teach me. They have enough interest in life to have me teach something to them, maybe. But it's always been like, you know, them old blues guys that were awesome guitar players.
Oh yeah.
We might point out Stevie Ray Vaughan as this awesome guitar great, which he is. But if you look at the standard of musicians of which he came from, they weren't mainstream, well-known people, but all of them were literally that great. That's just what he came from. Those kind of people, the ones that get overlooked, you know what I mean? The ones that people slide right by them and they don't think about it, because most of our society is based upon symbolism more than substance, and anybody who is of substance influences me, you know? Doug Stanhope, he's an example. The comedian, a lot of people know who he is. I've met Doug a few times. His comedy is very dark, but it's not just a comedian, a guy up there trying to be funny. That annoys me. he's actually a brilliant, insightful. It's very, very dark humor, but if you look at the nut of it, if you dig down into the motivation of what he's saying, it's actually coming from a place of exposing what real human decency should be by exposing the ridicule of it all. That's why I love his stuff. But you could put me up in front of some other comedian who's just trying to be funny, and I'm like, I just lose interest.
Whatever.
Right. You know, so, and Johnny actually is friends with Doug, and he forwarded his book. His book's called Digging Up Mother.
Really?
Give you a flavor of what Doug's all about. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But it's someone like him, or, you know, look at Johnny. He hunts out Hunter S. Thompson. He hunts down Doug Stanhope to be friends with because he looks for those people who have this certain insight, this certain thing that they've tapped into, that they struggle with society because society, when you really see it, you know, what's really happening. For example, 2 years ago, I was 50 pounds overweight and I was very sick. I simplified my life habits and I lost the weight and all my illness went away. In doing that, I took a look at society and I realized that subliminally, society feeds us sugar to make us ill, to feed us pharmaceuticals.
Sure. Yeah.
Big ugly racket. Now, that's just a basic realization I had that most people just don't get a chance to see because they're so caught up in the life of putting out fires. Got to get to work. Got to get the kids to school. Got to get laundry done. Got to get my car to the shop. Da-da-da-da-da. But I was fortunately blessed enough to say, oh, I see what's really going on around me. And I like other people that see it too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always like to, I shouldn't say always, I like to end in quotes because I think quotes are powerful. Yeah. So the quote I'm going to end with is something it's a poem I wrote when I was back in high school, but it points to a lot of the areas that we've touched on during this very special interview today with you. And it goes something like this. As I walk, I often think of things that have caught my eye, places I've been to, things that I've seen, people that have passed me by. I walk, and I often don't find the things I wish to see, and yet I continue to walk the road, caring, but feeling free.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of a quote.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth.
And with that, I'm going to ring the bell. Oh. Well, I really enjoyed this. I know everyone else will enjoy it as well. And I don't want to invite myself, but if I ever find myself potentially heading west, I'll let you know, and maybe we'll have a chance to meet. Maybe I'll even have a chance to pop into your workshop with you. And maybe I'll have a chance to meet this incredible woman that has steered your rudder in the right direction so many times. So quick shout out to Dawn as well, because I know that Dusty said you're going to be watching this. What an amazing thing to have a lady like you at his side that can nudge him when he needs to be nudged and hug him when he needs to be hugged. So it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Yeah, Dawn has done the ultimate favor in simply letting me just be me. She's never expected me to be anything other than just me, and that's allowed me to just go. So yeah. I'm very grateful to her for that.
Very cool.
You know, and you are invited. I mean, if you get out west, and her and I do a lot of traveling too. So likewise, like, you know, it'd be really cool to see the sewing machines and your workspace and
sure,
you know, things like that.
All right. Well, before we you've actually frozen again. I'm going to start calling you the freeze frame guy. But really a pleasure.
I'm gonna go put on the song.
Really, it's been a treat. It's been an honor to be able to learn more about you, learn about your work, learn about your process, learn about all the people you've touched. And I don't know what to say other than thank you. Thank you for sharing yourself with us today. Thank you for telling the stories you did. And and for being a sobering influence in a world sometimes that is so muddied up and so cloudy with what's really important, and us trying to raise ourselves above a circumstance instead of taking a step back and saying, I don't care where the spotlight hits as long as I have the opportunity to do what I love. And that's really the way I see you, is you love what you do. And now for the rest of your life, however long that is, you're never going to have to work a day in your life. You can just do what you love and be successful at it. So thank you again. Thank you again.
No, I appreciate it. I'm so excited to have met you, because I just love having somebody to geek out with sewing machines with.
Well, and send me the rest of those serial numbers and I'll look them up for you, okay?
Yeah, and at your convenience. I mean, I'm not going to. I just didn't want to ping up your messenger while you were trying to work, you know?
Yeah, don't worry about that. Just when you pull them out the next time, take a shot of that serial plate and shoot them over, and then I'll answer you back with the dates, birth dates, production group sizes, all that kind of stuff, so you got a clear picture of it. So, but I'm gonna let you get back to work. I'm gonna get back to work as well. Small W, not a capital W. Work like I do in my playroom, and like you do in your workshop. So,
Right.
all right, my friend, I'm signing off.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, do that, please. God bless you, buddy.
Bye. You too. I appreciate it.
Yep, my pleasure. Yep, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, let me turn some lights back on because I don't have to have that reflection factor quite as much anymore. What a neat guy, huh? What a fabulous guy. And, you know, I kind of ended on this Johnny Depp picture with Dusty after he presented that incredible guitar strap. But, you know, I would almost, to emphasize kind of what Dusty said, Johnny Depp is important because he's another human. But that's not what drives Dusty, obviously. Dusty is driven by legacy work. Feeling good about what he's doing, feeling proud about what he's doing, and then being able to see that response from that person that he's touched with his creative gifts. And I don't do exactly the same thing in the workshop. We have very different types of footprints, but he uses a lot of those vintage machines for a lot of his work as well. And so we share that common ground together, and we share that common passion of doing things right. I talk about that all the time on these premieres. You know, there's no point in doing something if you're not going to give it 100%. And that's why I always kind of stiffen my back when folks talk about shopping on eBay or shopping other places like that, where they're going to get an unknown commodity, and they're going to probably end up either being disappointed and that machine is going to go into a closet, or they're going to be comparing that machine to my machines all the time by saying, why won't my machine do what Scott's machines do? Very much like they might say in Dusty's circles, why can't I find leather goods that have been handcrafted to this degree, to this specificity? It's because we're all gifted in different ways. I would argue we're gifted in a way that can't be compared to anyone else that walks the earth or has walked the earth. And when it comes to this image that we're looking at right now, and that I'm going to close this premiere with, I don't even see Johnny Depp in the shot. Isn't that weird? I don't even see him. I look at Dusty's face and I see that sense of joy, that sense of completeness, not because he's standing with a celebrity, but because that celebrity has given back to him by saying, wow, when it comes to the work that Dusty does. So that's it, folks. I'm going to sign off. Thank you again to Dusty. Thank you to Dawn. And thank you to all the other folks that have given Dusty the opportunity to shine a light on his work and to feel good about what he's doing. Isn't that really what it's about? To feel good about what we're doing. So that's it. Take care, folks. Watch for other premieres like this, where I hope I am blessed again with meeting someone like Dusty that, boy, does he have a handle on life, doesn't he? He truly does. Do what you love. Don't do it for the money. God bless you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.